All right, getting ready to read chapter 3 of the New Nobles, Biella and the New Nobility. Love this chapter. Love this chapter. Well, I'm a bit biased. I might love all of them. All right, we be ready. There we go. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. How are you, Ryan? How are you, Ryan? How are you?
Good.
Excellent, excellent. I'm getting a bit of breakup from your voice there. Yeah. Huh.
Well, let me check my audio.
Yeah.
Let me check it.
Okay. Okay, please, because I'm keen for you to actually read the narrator today. So we're gonna need good audio.
Let's see.
All right, let me go to
Attic or something.
say again.
Oh, here we go. Can you turn on the Wi-Fi? That's why.
Oh, that'll help. Yeah, well, I'm glad we checked. So
it's always something simple, usually.
exactly, exactly. Just amazing how complicated things boil down to very simple stuff so often. We like to assume it's complicated when actually it's very simple. Hey, Ryan. All right, you're busy with that. Did you get like notifications about the meeting, about the this at the event? I'm trying something new. Two things. I got a tip which said, change the event, the time of your event, and when you change the time, it notifies everybody. So I changed the time last night, and then I changed it to like 9:01, and I changed it this morning back to 9:00. So you would likely have seen some notification, and then I got an extension of Chrome extension, which is invite all your friends, and I used that too, and apparently it invites all my friends. So I don't know. It didn't ask me what I'm inviting them to. It just said, okay, it's all done. So a little bit peculiar there, but all right. I'll give it a try. So
A notification. Hold on. I need to wait till my Wi-Fi kicks.
Gotcha. All right, no problem. While we wait, I haven't started the live yet, so
okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. Now it should be a lot better. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, you're better.
Yes.
You're better, definitely. All right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll give it a couple of minutes. I'm going to start the live and get everything set up, because that usually takes a couple of minutes. And then if not, Bina's going to read the quote here, and then she's also going to read the italics, which is like Biella thinking. And if you don't mind, if you would like to read the narrator, and I'll read Biella, because Biella's telling a story here, so there's a bit of complexity implied. So there are a couple of things here where it's like, yes, Biella replied during the very first Conference of Worlds. So in those instances, I'm just going to skip the Biella reply. I'm not going to wait for you to read it because technically that is. There's just a few of them like that. So you'll see what I do. I'll just go yes, and then just go right away. You know what I mean? So that just to give that flow to it. It's not many like that. So but you'll see. You'll see. You just can take your cue from me. So 1 second. Let me see. I'm getting Donna. Where are you, Donna? I want you to read Ursula. Oh. That'd be great if Donna comes. That'd be perfect because then we have Ursula's voice too. That's it. We needed 4, so that'd be ideal. Perfect. So Bina's gonna read when it's. I'm not showing screen share, but you'll see when it's in italics. It's Biella thinking, thinking, and so because if you read that in the same voice as Biella, it's very difficult to make a different voice for italics in yourself. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just always found that so. So it'll be cool to do that with Bina. So you're reading thoughts, Bina, which is very different. It's supposed to, when it's in italics, it's different to when it was like, oh, Biella thought, where you put it in quotes and Biella thought something. But in italics, it's our inner voice. It's a very different thing for me when I read too, and when this is used accurately. It's very exciting. It creates a very different dimension. Donna. Hello. Brilliant. And we have just 2. Anyway, hello, Sher. Hello, Donna. Marvelous. I'm most excited and happy to have you guys here. This is very, very exciting. Very, very exciting. All right. So I'll get the live started in a moment. Oh, there we go. Hello. We get the honk honk. Somebody's vibrator. Somebody's phone is vibrating. It's very exciting. Yeah. It sounded like that. Hello. Sure. Since your theme of the day is hearing, I'm keen for you to hear the story, which is very exciting. All right, just very exciting to hear it in a different way.
I don't know if you can hear me. I said all I'm going to do is listen.
Brilliant. Okay, it's exciting. It is very exciting. All right, so I love what you said. Sure, it was very, very exciting. It was very huge, because that's a major shift of inner being. It's a big deal, and we'll get into it afterwards of what you said. It'll be very exciting because I'm keen to hear how you hear this. It'll be very different. Donna, if you would like to, or if you don't mind, I'm keen for you to read Ursula. It's not much.
I actually can't see.
Oh, well, I haven't screen shared yet, so I'm coming.
I have something like migraine.
Okay. So you're in listening mode also then.
Today.
Okay. All right. No worries.
I'd like to just listen if I may.
Oh, absolutely. That's why it always, it's free. So it's okay. I'll just read Ursula as well. That's fine. I'll have to have a different voice for Ursula. So, okay. It's good practice for me. I'm trying to practice my feminine voice a little bit more. So, yeah, very specifically, I'm really, really making that effort to just kind of, say things from a more, like have a fierceness to my talking. Okay, fierceness may be a euphemism, but kind of be, so practice to express a little differently. So, all right, no problem. So, all right, and Ryan's going to do the narration. Bina is going to read the italics, which is Biella's inner thoughts, and then I'll read that. All right, so. I have to first do the live and then I do the screen share, so you won't see it right then, So, all right, here we go. Starting the live process. It's always a little bit of a slow process. Say in a group. There we go. Preparing live stream preview. Okay. Okay. What is the date today? November 10, right?
Yes.
Ah, brilliant. Okay. And there we go. Go live. Hello, Aurora. Hello, Aurora.
Yeah. She likes to talk.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, he gets it from one half of the ancestral line.
That's right. I wonder which one.
That chatterbox Janelle. Must be.
Always talking. Always talking.
Always talking.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. Here we go. Let's make a comment. Say on now. No, I already said that. Okay, here's the live one. I need to say it in this one. Okay. Just fascinates me how long this takes to get going, you know.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I like to leave a comment because then, you know, it also shows, and if I like it or love it, you know, that also
Right.
adds, you know, people see those comments, so it just gets a little bit of connectivity going. All right, Rachel is there. Hello, Rachel. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. All right, fantastic. So we are almost set. Let's get the window sizes set. Yeah, so I can see the comments, you know, as they come, because those are important. So, all right, brilliant. I'm seeing Rachel's comment there, which is very cool. So, excellent. And then we're going to get this window in the right size so that we can, there we go. We can read easy. Okay, let's do screen share, and we're up and away. Brilliant, brilliant. I'm going to move Zoom window so that don't overlap. Lots of fiddly stuff. All right. There we go. And you can it will as I scroll down and the picture goes, you know, it will come a bit better, Ryan. You know, instead of doing the screen share, of course, I don't think you can actually pull it up on your own one, because if I've got the screen share, you'll just see my screen share. So all right. So anyway, I'll just scroll, and I've seen before that, you know, when you get to the end here, you can always just pause, and then I'll just scroll as you read, you know. I've noticed that you're able to jump with the scrolling, no problem. It doesn't bother you. So, because you have quite a bit of reading to go, you see all the way to here, to what to do, and then I'll start. This is Ursula, you know, because I'm going to Ursula. So all the way to here, and then there's of course more narration as we go on. But this what to do. This is Bina, and then this is me over here. So it's quite a long section, and Bina's going to read the quote. All right, so we're all ready to go, and Rachel is listening.
Do you want me to start with that quote first?
No, Bina's going to read the quote.
Oh, okay.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So, which is kind of, it's sort of, since she's reading Biella's thoughts, it's kind of appropriate, because it's almost kind of like this is a thought for Biella in this case. So it all ties together. All right, so here we go, starting the reading of chapter 3 of The New Nobles. That's the name of the book, by the way, The New Nobles. Book 1 is called The New Nobles, and the chapter is called Biella and the New Nobility. It's chapter 3 of book 1 of the Biella series. All right, here we go. Bina.
Mastering the art of extrapolation is imperative.
From perspectives of the new nobility.
Biella was perplexed. Nothing she imagined had prepared her for this. Quite confounded, she didn't have a clear perspective on how to proceed. This was somewhat new for her. Biella had been asked to escort a delegation from New Worlds which had joined the agglomeration or were looking to join. The problem was the delegates. They were nothing at all what she had expected, one delegate in particular. Ursula, smart, intelligent, in complete command of herself, a natural leader, smooth, charming, affable, but also with an underlying intense, caring desire to do and be good. Biella had liked her immediately. The other delegates hadn't yet joined them. Biella found herself alone with Ursula. They had engaged in a deep conversation. The more she conversed, the more she was perplexed. It was obvious they had a connection, but Biella was having a problem reading Ursula, unable to establish where the boundaries were. With most individuals who were not from the new nobility, it was fairly easy to determine what one could and could not talk about. Some would only care to converse about the most mundane of topics, refusing to stray into anything even remotely unconventional. Others liked controversial topics and loved discussing politics, for instance, but were completely averse to discussing religion. With most individuals, it typically came down to a split between the conventional topics and those which pushed the boundaries of beliefs. Very few, it seemed, were truly interested in topics requiring leaps of faith. These were usually written off as being frivolous or silly. Ursula was obviously open-minded and progressive, yet Biella couldn't be sure where the boundary was. She was worried about saying the wrong thing, possibly putting Ursula off. This was new to Biella. She had many wonderful relationships and friendships with individuals outside of new nobility. Some had definite boundaries, even though they were unspoken. She occasionally tested these to make sure, sometimes to tease, but mostly to check. Biella didn't want to assume her friends had stayed in the same place. Most did not. With Ursula, she could not tell. She found herself being overly careful with what she was saying, not liking it one bit. Ursula was strong, an innate leader, one of those individuals who were competent and sensible in everything they did. She had no problems in asking for help if she needed it or didn't know something. Biella had the sense there were sides to Ursula where she felt vulnerable, but was caught between wanting to discuss these and being annoyed with herself for needing or wanting to talk about it. Biella explored certain areas to open things up. She encountered the vaguest hint of resistance and didn't pursue. It was all nebulous. She wasn't sure at all. Could all just be her imagination, a manifestation of her own fears and insecurities? She didn't want to offend or upset Ursula in any way. At the same time, she didn't want to pull any punches, wanting to be able to discuss anything with Ursula. She didn't know the limits, unsure if Ursula truly enjoyed her company or her commitment to the interaction was merely a consequence of exquisite politeness and consideration, or somewhere in between.
What to do?
Understood from the briefing the name agglomeration had something to do with a new nobility. Are you the narrator that you, Ursula, was saying, right?
Oh,
That's
sorry,
all right.
my first time doing something.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Ursula was saying,
Yes,
Biella replied.
during the very first conference of world, many of the new nobility were present, although they weren't present on most of the worlds then, as they are now.
Biella continued.
They were the new nobility, completely different to the ancient nobility, which had long since ceased to be a factor. The conference had gone well. All the major points had been agreed upon. Yet all of a sudden, when it came to naming the new grouping of worlds, it all broke down. As different names were proposed, they were immediately vetoed by delegates out of hand. Each name vetoed was sensitive on their particular world. Union, Alliance, Federation, Republic, Conference, Association, and many more were all summarily vetoed.
Biella paused momentarily to assess Ursula, who was intently focused on her.
Is she interested in what I am saying, or me as well?
The new nobles present had seen a pattern developing. They saw a deadlock coming. As the different names were being proposed and dismissed, they had spread themselves unobtrusively throughout the assembly. Merely with subtle eye contact and body language, they were preparing. They were anticipating the moment of frustration, the deadlock, when no more proposals were available.
Ursula asked.
Did they have a name of their own available?
Slight raise of her eyebrow accompanied this.
Their research surely must have had them prepared. That was the unusualness of the situation. Nothing in their research had prepared them for the out-of-hand vetoes. They had anticipated resistance and were ready for negotiations in order to agree. In the same manner as all the other agreements, the names that had been pre-selected had all been vetoed already. One of the new nobles indicated for the others to be ready to follow his lead. The assembly had come to a slight pause. A few more names were thought up, proposed, vetoed, but the pace was slowing. He was waiting for it to grind to a complete halt. With each of the recent proposals, the new noble amplified the frustration level with utterances of dissent. The other new nobles responded to his lead. They weren't precisely sure what he had in mind. Some suspected, but they took their cues from him nonetheless, trusting the strength of his motivation. As the last few names were proposed and subsequently vetoed, they raised the irritation and frustration level each time. Then it came to a halt. Names had run out. The conference threatened to break down. Well, now what? Someone shouted angrily, creating the opening the new noble had been waiting for.
Biella adjusted her breathing and continued.
He immediately yelled out in the most sarcastic tone he possibly could, "Why don't we just call it the agglomeration?" Making sure he caught the eyes of the new nobles nearest him. This was their cue. "Yeah," another one agreed with the same sarcastic tone. "Why don't we just do that?" Another one suggested with a note of disgust. Taking care, all the other new nobles prompted agreements in the same tone and manner, the delegates inadvertently doing the same, utilizing the opportunities the new nobles created to vent their frustrations. The assembly was ringing with sarcastic and frustrated cries. Irritated wisecracks of, "That's just the ticket," and similar were heard. Soon all had sarcastically agreed to the new name. At that moment, the new noble signaled the current chairman, and making sure he had his attention, yelled, "Mr. Chairman, it's unanimous. The motion has carried." There was an immediate stunned silence. The new noble urgently gestured for the chairman to pass the motion. "The motion is carried," the chairman quickly announced. Before anyone could raise any objection, the new noble broke into a huge laugh. The other new nobles following his lead joined in. The entire assembly had to join in or look foolish. He knew this. His work wasn't done yet. He nodded to another new noble. Time for someone else to lead. It couldn't all be seen to come from one source. It was too easy to resist with a single focus for the objections. The second new noble spoke out loud, as if she was voicing her thoughts to no one in particular. "It's actually not too bad, you know. Takes a little getting used to, but with the right air and pronunciation to it, I can definitely sell it to my people. Her people were enlightened and would not have cared what the name was, but what she had said was true nonetheless. I kind of like it. Another new noble echoed the sentiment. Yeah, not bad. For the negative delegates, another said, I don't like it one bit, but I'll take it. It's damn sure better than nothing. The new nobles started towards the exit, engaging nearby delegates in conversation, forcing them to move along. They were making sure there weren't any objections. Issuing congratulations, they locked in the resolution. Anyone who tried objecting now was going to look like the worst possible deal breaker. No one wanted to be that delegate. Go ahead, see Ryan.
That's okay. Ursula had an undefiable expression on her face.
They manipulated the conference.
She said neutrally.
Guided is perhaps better.
She trailed off.
She's creating. Okay. She's creating an opening for me to add a personal commentary.
The ethics of awareness.
Biella stated. She said it flatly, without indication anything was to follow.
They were precisely aware of what they had done. The ethics of the new nobility don't allow for manipulation. One of our most fundamental concepts is always to think things through to the very end.
As I'm trying to think you all the way through.
The new noble who had proposed the term agglomeration gathered together the other new nobles immediately after the assembly broke up, asking for their help. He didn't need to explain much. It was more a matter of organization. They knew the situation couldn't be left like that. Each was assigned to a group of delegates to whom they then explained exactly what had happened. They made sure to point out the necessity for the new nobles' actions, Biella said, presenting the explanation with much good humor, but nonetheless ensuring all the delegates were fully aware of what had taken place. They were made to understand the new nobles' ethics could not let them leave the matter without clarification. It had been their deep sense of commitment to the success of the endeavor which had prompted them to seize the opportunity and act upon it. Good thing you did, otherwise we'd still be there, was a common sentiment expressed by the delegates. They used the intimacy of the confession and explanation to expound the ethics and principles by which the new nobility lived. Fluidity and adaptation were core concepts. The opportunity to firmly establish the new nobility was not missed. They made sure there were no misconceptions from the delegates, who were left with no illusions the conference would most likely not have succeeded. The new nobles had saved the day. Unorthodox perhaps, but certainly necessary. They opened the doors of the new nobility schools to the delegates, ensuring the presence of the new nobility on those worlds.
She is making me go into all the details.
The delegates from the worlds without new nobles, all seasoned diplomats, were somewhat taken aback by the unaccustomed candor of the new nobles. They didn't quite know how to proceed. The sophistication of the maneuver left them cautious and wary, but mightily impressed. They silently doubted the integrity of the new nobles, cautioning themselves to verify with careful study.
Biella wondered where the other delegates were, but was happy for the alone time with Ursula.
I do like her. She is in command of herself. Yet...
It didn't take long for them to come to see the integrity of the new nobles was unparalleled. In the early days of the agglomeration, the new nobles were both highly sought after and avidly avoided at political conferences. Yes, they would surely have been unpopular with the average politician, Ursula laughed. They wouldn't have been able to bribe them or make deals. If I understand it correctly, the new nobility were already fairly well established at that time, so they were a force to be reckoned with.
Sharp. Is she making a statement of how she perceives the new nobility? Or does she just not know? You always act independently. There is no group or political stance by the new nobility. Surely she knows this. But if she doesn't, how do I let her know without making her look ignorant? Is that even a concern?
Biella's thoughts were interrupted. She was saved from her dilemma by the arrival of the other delegates.
We were discussing how the new nobility were influenced in the politics of the past.
Biella seized her opportunity.
It is, however, a common misperception the new nobility are a cohesive, organized group. We have no leaders or central organization. Admin and the bureaucracy are kept to a minimum and rotated through all the new nobility. Everyone takes their turn. There are no political or social policies of any kind, except appropriateness. Each new noble is left to their own conscience and beliefs. The fact they usually are in agreement is a consequence of their underlying ethics, their shared sensibilities, the practice we employ and are thoroughly taught of thinking things through to the very end almost always leads us to the same place.
For good measure, Biella added,
Nothing is set down. Our precepts and ideals are all taught individually, passed on to each successive generation, each new noble imparting their own particular perspectives and sets of values. Each and all are continually striving to improve, to add to themselves. The system continues to grow and refine. We are encouraged from our very first day here and constantly reminded to seek out as many different opinions and perspectives of what constitutes the new nobility as possible. So there is no curriculum, no timetable, no qualification, nothing like that.
one of the delegates ventured with astonishment.
None.
Biella said, not elaborating for emphasis.
Did I overdo it for Ursula?
Biella tried again to gauge Ursula.
What do you make of it all so far, Ursula?
Biella asked, deliberately adding in the so far to connect with Ursula specifically.
It is fascinating and not what I expected. Admirable.
Ursula replied.
Pina?
Perfect response.
There was a neatness, a tidiness, and efficiency to Ursula's interactions, Biella thought. So smooth, so professional, yet not studied or artificial. What was behind it? An extremely polished ability to communicate and interact? Or a genuine caring? Or both? The goodness was evident now that Biella thought it through a bit. The question really was, Biella realized, whether Ursula was after more or not. Satisfied she had reduced the puzzle to its root, Biella reassessed the situation. She was at ease. Having identified the problem, a solution shouldn't be too hard to acquire.
The new nobility continually struggle with contradiction.
Biella stated, surprising and startling them.
They see too much. But first, let me lay out a basic overview of what the new nobility are, what they stand for, how they fit into society, and so on.
Biella continued, not giving them time to comment. She wanted their attention.
Now they have a puzzle, and I am about to provide the twigs for them to build a solution. But there is so much, so much.
Oh, I love that. That just ended on a nice note there. All right, the next chapter we start with Cornelius, who's quite the conundrum. I like this chapter because it brings up this conundrum of necessity and manipulation when there is a greater attunement and that you see a solution that needs to happen. And if you don't interfere, if you don't do something, it leads to a calamity. Like in this case, if they hadn't interfered, the entire conference would have collapsed, and the agglomeration likely wouldn't have started because there's no name and it's just a big mess. So this is a conundrum that they face. So how do you guys feel about this in terms of what the new nobility did there in this situation? Donna, are you with us still? Can you chat a little bit? I'm keen to hear your perspective on this.
I feel that he did what they needed to do to keep it moving. So you could, for me, it just illustrated, you could see that it was application of taking a situation and bringing it to the very end and doing what you needed to do to keep things moving along in a positive way.
There you go. There you go. Sure. What did you hear, Sure?
No, I'm here. I'm here. It's got a bad connection on my end.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of mulling it over a little bit. I mean, I liked what Donna said. I think, yeah, they did it to move it along, but I'm also kind of wondering if I was feeling a sense of panic for them.
Interesting. Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, not necessarily so much a panic as they just recognized what could have happened. The delegates had a bit of panic because they didn't want the thing to break down. Yeah, but the new nobility, not so much. Yeah.
Okay, well, not panic then. Maybe just a very heightened awareness of, hey, something got to be done.
Right. Yes.
For the moment.
Right. Actually, I should have put that quote in at the end again, like we did in the previous chapter. You know, we used that end thing. That would have been. I will do it because this is the quote: "Mastering the art of extrapolation is imperative." And this was what allowed them to do that, is because they were partaking in the conference and they were seeing the pattern and they just extrapolated it out, and then through that extrapolation, they could kind of very clearly see that there was a very high probability that this thing was going the way it was going. They were running out of names. And if there isn't a name, then the whole thing will collapse. And so they had to, and because people are in that habit of saying no, and the pattern had already been established to say no, 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 the only way to bring any name in was to then bring it in as something sort of preposterous in a way. And that's what he did. So, okay, you know, the name agglomeration was one they hadn't prepared. It comes in later. It just came to him in the moment. There was just an intuitive thing out of the necessity. But nonetheless, that was the logic there, that he was looking to say, okay, since everybody was already in that space of saying no, 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 he brought it up as sarcastic, kind of as a joke thing almost, and then he got everybody to sort of agree to it in a roundabout way. And so, yeah, like Osha says, in a way it was a manipulation, but a necessary manipulation. And so they go afterwards to the delegates and they explain what happened, and they say, look, what else? You know, if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have the agglomeration, we wouldn't have a name, and this was the key thing that bound the whole conference together. So it's a very big deal, of course. So yeah, it's just interesting from an ethical point of view that they went and explained afterwards what they did. So sometimes we may need to act in ways which are potentially problematic, but we can always go afterwards and explain, hey, in the moment, I didn't really have a choice. I didn't have time then to explain, but I can now. And that is the way we can balance those actions which are founded on necessity, on extrapolation, on good intent, on impeccability, but we don't have time in the moment to explain. We can always go and explain afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. For me, I was only able to get like little bits and pieces since I was focusing on the practice of the reading.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to comprehend everything that was going on because I was looking for my parts. And
Why?
Yeah, you know, my focus was.
Oh, I love it. I love it. The reading is great, and it's a great exercise of focus and awareness and concentration and the mix of listening and talking. There's a lot that goes into the reading.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I lose some of the story also for the same reason. So yeah, but it's quite fascinating though, how the reading so profoundly excuse me, changes how we listen and think.
Yes.
Which brings me up to share what you said to me earlier in chat, but I just want to hear from Bina before we go there.
Okay, about this thing, this extrapolation, is it about having trust also, capital T trust, that okay, yes, if one of them, one of us is doing something which is not making sense right now, but we need to trust them and also the process.
Yeah. Oh, so you were saying that through the extrapolation they had a lack of trust, or trust that it wasn't going to work?
No, it is going to work. I'm just asking you about this. Because you use the word extrapolation, and what I understand, because I was, yes, also trying to focus on that reading, but is it about having trust that, yes, someone is doing something which might seem inappropriate at this moment.
All right.
But we need to trust.
Right. For the other new nobles of the, I should have named this new noble here. They don't have a name. Their name is lost in the history of things. By design, that new noble didn't want to have it be focused on him specifically, and it comes in a little bit later that he gets a lot of credit for it, but then he de-emphasized it so that it became a new nobility thing, not him specifically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just call him Joe for the time being here. So so when Joe Noble, so when he came up with this, and the other new nobles saw, oh, he's got a pressure in him. He's doing something that he feels is absolutely imperative. In other words, he's behaving somewhat uncharacteristically. He's stepping out of the usualness of what they would do. So for them then, they had absolute capital T trust in his impeccability, in his good intent, in his sensibility, knowing he wouldn't never ever possibly do something like that unless he had a very profound reason for it. And then, of course, this changes their perspective. They say, oh, why could he possibly have doing this? And then they start to click and say, okay, well, things weren't going well, and he must have some solution for this. And now this, and then they kind of click. When you shift that frame of perception, things start to fall into place. So yes, if that's what you mean by capital T trust.
Yes.
From the other new nobles, yes. Now the delegates, well, they were in a different space of awareness, so not so much for them. But yeah, absolutely. That's what made it work, because when they saw he was acting out of the normal, right, that immediately implies he has some kind of a pressure inside of himself, right? And this is a huge deal when we recognize that. And this is something we can take for our own dynamic within the group. If something comes up in us, we have a pressure, then we speak, we say, even when it's unconnected, doesn't matter. You say according to your pressure. And like if two start and say at the same token, then it's always the one who has the most pressure. And you can feel that sometimes, you can really see that pressure. So it's a very simple mechanism for being guided as to the flow of things. Just let the pressure of things guide it, and it's really exciting how that works. It's very profound, very profound. All right, so sure, you shared something really huge with the chat this morning, and I want to go over this because it is connected here. In other words, they were really hearing what was going on. They were hearing the frustration. They were hearing the complexity. They were hearing the fact that all the terms were running out. But by implication, also we're hearing the fact that if we do run out of terms and everybody's in a frustrated space, they're just going to say, and in that frustration, the thing collapses. And with such a conference, because this is a conference of worlds, people have to come from far. Once this breaks down, to get everybody back together again becomes, exponentially more difficult task. So, but you said, and I want to hear what you said specifically for yourself, and then we'll connect it all. What came up for you in your stillness this morning?
I woke up this morning doing my meditation quiet time, and the thought came to me that my job, my purpose is not to tell what I know. It's in sharing, it's to hear people, to hear others with what specifically that they're saying, and not their words, but what's under the words.
Yes. Yes.
And strangely enough, I had not gone. That's why the story, I was kind of left without anything very profound to say. I have nothing profound to say right now.
There's no need to ever say something profound. It's what you hear that's profound that matters.
Well, the chapter, when you were reading it, all I could do is just keep, there's a very strong dynamic and connecting thread to that particular chapter this morning that's gone on, I don't know, a little bit. And as I watch things unfold around me and in current situations, and then to hear that story, I was just like, oh, there was a great aha moment.
What was the aha moment for you?
The aha moment was just, I did what I needed to do, just for the sake of not letting things fold and come apart at the seams, and people just go off and do their own thing. But I did what I needed to do to pull things together. And now I will have the opportunity to go back and explain why that was and hear them, just as they're doing in the story.
I love it. Wow, that's really magical. Wow. And then, you know, like when you were saying about that, you know, for me, from where my response, you know, what kind of comes up in me is that it's not just about hearing others. When we share our stories, we also get to hear ourselves. And this is huge. Because when we've heard ourselves and when we express our stories and we share them, when we put them out there, we're really putting them out there to the universe. And in that putting them out there, we kind of let them go. And this is a very interesting and peculiar mechanism that once you've told the story in full detail and there's nothing left to say about it, once you've done that once, it's like that memory, that pressure, it gets released. And you don't quite remember the thing in the same way. Like I was just thinking of a story that came up. We were talking about people having visions and seeing something specifically, you know, and I've only had one ever. And once I wrote that, and it was always something I could remember and I could kind of more or less talk about, but I never spoke about it in detail. I never shared it in full complex detail, all the implications and everything. So I wrote it out once. And it's part of the young man's story. And after I'd done that, like if I had to go into it now, I will remember what I wrote in the story. I don't have the visual and the feeling and the movement anymore the way I always carried it with me. It's out of me. It's released. Now, to connect this to hearing, the reason why sharing our stories connects to hearing is because once we tell our stories and we hear ourselves and we release those inner stories of ours, we now create space where we don't have personal agenda and we don't have a pressure on us to say something in response. Yes, but you know, and to bring our own side of things, we can just hear, and then what we hear will pull from us what's appropriate in response. So it takes that space out. This is what is hearing. It is being in a space where you don't have internal pressure to have to say something. And this is a huge deal. Watch people when they talk. Is one actually responding to the other, or are they responding to themselves? If you really watch conversations, inevitably you see people just waiting for a chance to say what they want to say, not respond really to what the other one is saying. They in this continual kind of almost a competition or a battle or a pressure and urgency to say what is inside them that needs to come out. So this is the point of writing out and sharing your stories or making videos of your stories. It gets all that stuff out. Once it's out, you're in a space where I'm just chill. I don't have anything to say right now. And however, that doesn't mean that you're not going to end up saying something, because like for me, I don't have anything to say when I come into a conversation. I don't have a pre-thought. And again, it's not like people have a pre-thought, but they have that internal pressure. I don't have that. So I just listen. And then what you say or anyone says, it like just stimulates things and it pulls things from me. Now what I'm saying, it's more objective. It's not a personal opinion. It's relevant to the situation. It's just pertinent and relevant. It's a different logic to it. So that's how I found it really works for me. And it's really a magical thing, because you get in that space where you can really, really hear. And it doesn't matter how long somebody takes to tell their story. It don't matter, because you get to hear yourself through others. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
You know, so this is very magical, you know, and when we get to hear ourselves through others, then we can just share and connect and, you know, hear what they're saying from that point of view. You know, now you're in a more objective space, being in that always subjective space. I gotta tell this, I gotta say this, I gotta get this out. You know, your agenda goes away once you've already got it out and you feel like you've heard yourself. And the universe has heard you. That's all that's necessary. You don't have to have others hear us. Just you and the universe. That's all that's needed. Or you and God, or you and Allah. It doesn't matter. However you conceive of it. Very exciting.
So
Does
go
that
back
make
then to, oh, I was just going to ask if you could go back and maybe give an explanation or a little bit of your take on Ursula and Biella, their interaction, why Biella felt like she couldn't connect with her. Or
well, this comes a little later in the story, so it will get explained. I don't want to give a spoiler. If I do it in the next chapter, it all will make sense later on. So yeah, I mean, there is very much a connectivity here, and it does come where essentially it's not Biella that is the one that's off here. It's Ursula and where she's at, and she's in a very peculiar spot, a place of being, which does very much connect to expression and saying things. And Ursula comes, essentially what we're talking about now, she's jump-started the whole thing. And she's kind of worked it all through, and she's in a bit of a conundrum. You'll see. Again, if I explain it, it's a spoiler. So it's a good question. It's the most appropriate question here, sure. It's very necessary, but it's deliberately left unanswered. So there's a bit of mystery going forward, and it answers because it's a big part. We take a bit of a detour to get there. We go via Camellias first, but we get back to this issue with Ursula, and when it finally comes out, it's really cool. It's very cool. It's one of my favorite parts of the story. When Ursula shares what she was thinking during this time. It's very exciting. But we go via Camellias first. He has to say his part because the two, Camellias and how he shares and he's at in the context of we are talking here. Camellias doesn't make this connectivity to creating space for himself where he can kind of be and be open. He gets stuck. He doesn't quite make that jump and that leap to letting go of himself, as it were. He keeps that connectivity where Ursula eventually does make the leap to let go of herself. So we get this contrast between Ursula and Camellias. Now, Camellias' story is a lot more convoluted and complex because that's how it is. When we don't face the obvious and deal with it, particularly the awful truth, it leads to complication on top of complication. And, it's just the universe keeps coming back at you and keeps coming, trying to get you to resolve this and move on. So that's very exciting, very exciting. Big deal. Just a little point of backstory. Camellias is a real person, by the way, and his dialogue, it's actual real dialogue. I was writing the story at the time, and I said, "What do you think of this?" And then he would respond, and he kind of got into kind of the mood of it a little bit. It was very interesting how it happened, and I have the bigger conversation that we were in saved, and I just pulled that out and I put it into context of the story, adding situations and circumstances, kind of enfolded, but it didn't change his dialogue one little bit. Whereas Ursula's dialogue it's all created by me. I mean, Ursula is a character I've made up, but she was somewhat inspired by somebody I used to in the games I used to play with, and she was they call him a raid leader. You go in a dungeon and you do a whole big, group activity where you fight the big boss. But there's lots of organization that needed, and you need a raid leader that says, "Hey, stand over there, do this." And they really lots of strategy and organization. And you got to be very tight and very focused because it's time pressure and you're dealing with volunteers, so it's quite the thing. So Ursula inspired me this, but this Ursula goes a lot further than that Ursula. So anyway, just that she's a fictional character, though, even though. The inspiration for her came from a real person. Just little oddities. Other thing I wanted to ask, Bina, was reading her Biella's thoughts, because that's the italicized parts is Biella's internal thinking, like really what comes up in her. How did that connect for you a little bit?
Are you talking?
It makes.
I wasn't listening.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. It makes it for me. It makes it more real for me. Like Biella. Till now, I was feeling like, oh yes, it is a fictional character, and it is something out there, someone out there, not here. But even just a few sentences, like very few, like 3 or 4, or maybe 5. Not more than that, but it feels like yes, a person who thinks like that, who is like a very normal person, and for even not normal is not an appropriate word, but just real.
Right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, Biella's very real, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very real. And the other thing that I enjoy with the italics is because I feel that in my own, and this goes back to Sher, it goes back to the hearing ourselves. We have, for me, I feel we have two different ways of kind of thinking and thinking. Because one is I'm thinking something through, like, okay, I'm evaluating, like my thoughts were, okay, what was the story about again? Okay, it was about Biella and Ursula. She's trying to figure out Ursula, but she's also explaining about the new nobility to Ursula. But then I have an internal thought that's kind of a bigger me thought, not a calculation, understanding, figuring it out thought, like a personal thought, which was like, hey, what's my mood today, or whatever the thought is, or relation to somebody else. And there's a difference to me between, like, thinking things through, kind of a thinking, and those type of questions, which are very personal points, which are almost, in a sense, they're more directly connected to your intent and your overview perspective. Those thoughts that were in the italics. So I don't know if like Donna and Sher, do you feel, and Ryan, do you feel that there is a difference? It illustrates the difference.
Say that again.
Like when the thoughts that are in the italics that Bina read.
Mm-hmm.
And that those are different to, well, in this particular thing, there aren't things where Biella's kind of thinking it through in a way. I mean, she's expressing what she's thinking because she's telling a story. So she's not in the act of actually thinking things through. But while she's doing this, stuff comes up in her. And it's a different thing now. The story that she speaks out loud could just as well have been like, it could have been written Biella thought, and it could be her like thinking the whole story through, and I don't remember how the story goes, and was it this and that kind of thinking, as opposed to, there are two different types of thinking, I feel. One is kind of a calculating thinking of running through your memory, looking at options, and these that I put in italics are different kinds of thoughts. They're more like really deeply personal thoughts, as opposed to just abstract.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what's going on. Like, me, I think mechanically of everything. So how does that working? What's going on? And my personal takeaway of what's happening there is, the rational mind is the more calculated, and that's saying the out loud stuff, because you have to put it through this process to say it out loud so that other people can like understand.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But the italicized stuff, that is like her real self. We'll call it like the real self.
Yes.
Saying these things, and then based off what the real self says, then that frequency or vibration gets sent here, and then this brain tries to program it and put it into words so that it can get it out to the masses. You know what I mean?
Yes. It's like,
because
go ahead.
And that's why it's such a short little thing, because she said a lot in that little thing, but she has to put it through all of this to get it out so that other people can understand what she's actually saying.
Right. But those are her like comments to herself, and not.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like a private self speaking to itself, which is, she'd like to say that. And later on, she gets to a space where she can say that directly to Ursula instead of just thinking it. She will later on, they develop a really close friendship. And later on, she's able to say, did I overdo that, Ursula? And Ursula would likely tease her, say, yes, of course, you always overdo it. Or something like that, something like that. But they get to a space where that is. But this is early days. And because Biella has a connectivity. She feels a connection, but she's being cautious. She doesn't want to. She's saying rather say too little than too much, because she wants to kind of feel it out and get things to go on. But there is a conundrum with Ursula herself, and that comes out later, which is what made Biella feel this. So it's
almost like she doesn't know whether she can trust this person with these deep inner thoughts.
Correct.
She has to share. But she really wants to share them, and she's like, I don't know, it's kind of scary, so I'm just going to kind of dance around it for a while.
Right.
Kind of put it off. But maybe she should have just came out and said it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. That's the thing.
Who knows? you know,
Right.
because yeah, it seems like maybe she has a little bit of fear of sharing like her real thoughts.
Right. It's not so much a fear, it's a caution. I just want to hear from Donna real quick. There's a
Okay.
reason why she doesn't say it out directly. She has a very legitimate reason. So
I totally respect her caution, and I feel as though the process for her feels very intimate and
yeah,
on her timing, and nobody can provide that but her.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
mm,
She is
mm.
looking for an attunement appropriateness because also keep in mind that Ursula is a delegate. And Biella's been tasked with explaining the new nobility to the delegates. So she has to keep in mind her sort of official duty here as a new noble, to explain that. So if she goes directly into personal and it backfires in a way, she takes that chance. Now she sort of messed the thing up with Biella being a delegate. I mean, Ursula being a delegate. So she has to take the greaterness of things into account. She's looking to connect personally with Ursula, which is outside the bounds of her mandate to connect to them as delegates. So this is why she's a bit cautious here. Yeah. It's very interesting. It's a layeredness to her. She's looking at to be appropriate, but also she is sensing something in Ursula. And when you hear the story later with Ursula, it all will make perfect sense. Biella's intuition here. She's very much normally she would just say she's very open. She's unusually cautious here. And so this is a very deep intuitiveness here. You kind of feeling that intuitiveness, Donna?
Yep.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Very fascinating. Yeah.
And you know what's
Uh-huh.
I'm just seeing the differences between like my man brain and
Yes.
Donna's woman brain,
I was
because
thinking exactly the same thing. I was thinking exactly the same thing.
you know what I mean? Like I just can't help but like see it, but it's amazing because
Yeah.
I just was telling my wife this morning, I'm like, you're like my personal advisor.
Yes.
Like literally, I
She
told my
is.
wife, I said, look, your intuitiveness is so profound. It's so amazing. It's way better than mine. Way better.
Yes.
Like she can read people like a book.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of a little dull sometimes. I'm like,
Yes. I hear you, Ryan. I hear you.
but I want to get better.
Yeah.
But it's like she advises me. Like I'm the action guy. Like I'm like ready to take orders. Like what do you want me to do? So you don't have to do it. I'll go and do it because I'm strong. I can like take action and focus. Whatever orders you got, because she's more intuitive, so she can see.
Yes.
She can be like, here's what we need to do. And I'm like, okay, I'll go do that.
I love it. I so hear you, Ryan. I so hear you. And just what you said now, I so wish that more people and guys in particular would kind of connect to this a little bit more. And just have an appreciation of themselves and of others and the balance. And that, hey, it's not all about logic. In other words, like in this case, on a logical basis, when we look at how Biella's reacting, I think that she's being a little bit afraid and all that. But that's on the logical basis. When we kind of unhook from logic and say, oh, there's more that I don't understand, then we start to understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing to me how that works. It's just really, really incredible. And yes, when we listen to like how Donna and Bina and Sher are responding to this, particularly Donna, because Donna has that same, powerful intuitiveness as Bina does too. And Sher, you also, Donna, you expressed it so nicely. It's like, man, we just hear this whole other world that's like, man, I don't know what the hell is going on. That's the way I feel for the most part. So
Like sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I didn't even see that. Like,
wow.
Or I didn't hear that at all.
Right.
But it's cool because, you know what I mean? Like whatever they are feeling or seeing, it's deeper than what I'm feeling.
Right.
But like, I'm super good at like, okay, what can we do with that?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Absolutely.
I like taking what women say and like, let's put it in application. Like what?
Yes. I hear you totally. I agree. Because they connect so profound. And here's the thing with the intuition, like in terms of the male brain that we're talking about, we want to have it definitive. We want to have it sorted out. We want something to act on. But sometimes in this case, the action is patience.
Right. Yeah. Which is, women are better at that.
Exactly.
In
So
a lot of cases, not all cases, but
yeah,
a lot of cases.
so that's the key, because she knows there is something going on. She feels it intuitively,
Right.
that's unresolved, that doesn't make sense. There's an imbalance in the thing, and later it comes. Ursula explains her story. You'll hear this profound imbalance and how Ursula resolves it, and it's just magical. I just love that part of the story. It's my favorite. It's just very, very exciting. Hello, hello. I don't know who joined. Mary.
Mary.
Yes.
Hey,
Brilliant, brilliant. Hello, Mary. Hello, hello. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. We've already read the story, but we're just going over. And right now we are connecting to, intuition and how it comes out, because in the story, Biella has an intuitive connectivity to something that's not obvious. And it's an unresolved thing. And we're talking about how from like the guy brain, like Ryan and I, we want to like have it resolved. We want to figure it out and like what's going on here, and we want to act on stuff. But sometimes intuitively that things are unresolved, and the only resolution is to just wait.
Right.
Yeah.
Sir? I thought Sir had something to add there. Sorry.
Well,
No, I do, but I was just waiting until everybody was finished.
Go ahead, Sir. Go ahead. We can wait, right, Ryan? We're learning patience, so we'll practice.
No, guys, we're still conversing. I was just listening, so I was just waiting.
Go ahead, Sir.
The interesting part for me was I wasn't so much, I was focused on what Biella was thinking and saying, but there was one part in particular, which was that she felt like she couldn't quite get a read on Ursula. And it's Ursula that I found myself thinking about and focusing on, not Biella.
Yes, that is the intent. And as it goes more on, it gets, Ursula's sort of, because she's one of the delegates and she's this little mystery at tantalizing. We get all involved with Cornelius because there's more of a direct connectivity to Cornelius with Biella, because she has a bit of pre-connecting, over they call it the internet, they just call it the com. She had some prior interaction with Cornelius, so this has a bit of connectivity to him, and it starts off good and goes well. So but Ursula comes gradually more and more into it, and then at some point later on, yes, we get to see all of Ursula, and then it transfers, and Ursula becomes essentially, one of Biella's really close friends. They really bond, they really connect. So it's very cool, So in just in a way, for me, that we've connected, Ursula, Biella, and Ursula's connectivity gets to be in the same way all of us have connected, to really get that tight connection, very deep connection. So very exciting. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think why I kept thinking about Ursula is because I see myself a lot of times that same way,
Yes.
not sharing, because I do a lot more thinking, not overthinking, but a lot more thinking, like in the italic kind of thinking.
Why?
And then you want to express it, it comes out all fast backwards. So
Yes.
sometimes I just kind of keep it to myself or type it out. One of the two.
Right. So also that italicized thinking, it is a very deep thinking. And Biella's also careful to not bring it up into the forefront of her awareness and not think it here, because then she'll put it out there, and then she would, did I overdo it for Ursula? She would have then cued that for Ursula, and Ursula would have connected that, and then I would have added an extra layer of So it's a very deep, private, internal thing only. This is for internal consumption, because we can very specifically and deliberately think things in different parts of the brain, and you can really bring something literally here to this front brain. I call it the forefront of our awareness. You put something out here in the forefront of your awareness, and pretty much people can see what the hell you're thinking about. It's really amazing. Very profound. Very simple, but very profound, very big deal. So we can, if you just watch people, you can kind of see them walking around, and it's like almost like this is a weight and it pulls their head, and they're like and you can kind of almost see what they're thinking about. Like, okay, girlfriend, or relationship, or bosses being a dick or whatever. You can like really clearly see what they're thinking sometimes. It's sitting right there. They like want to say it, but they're not saying it, It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. It's something to pay attention to. It's really interesting. Very, very interesting. And we can use that deliberately sometimes. And I suspect, like Ryan, you already do that, like with your kids.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You know, you bring it right up front here, and it's like, you know they're pushing the edge of things, and you're like saying, you're right on the edge here. Keep pushing it, and you're going to get into trouble. Keep pushing it, and they can see it there, and then they're like, oh, and they kind of quit. Yeah.
Yeah. I help them become aware of that.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, being this masculine figure, like I have to use force sometimes, like pressure.
Right.
On them, which, you know, you don't like to do that, but
No.
sometimes it's necessary. Just like life puts that little pressure on us.
Right.
You have to put a little bit of pressure on the children.
Right. And if we can
You
use
try to be nice about it. You try to be nice.
Oh yeah. And again, too, you know, if you think of this thing of pressure, and you say, you know, if you actually say to your kids, look, I can actually force my result, or I can appeal to your logic and your sensibilities and your reason. So that's up to you. You know, again, if you don't see the logic of this, if you don't see the sense of this, then you force my hand. So either we're going to think this thing through and be sensible about it, or we need to have pressure, because we need a resolution, you know, one way or the other. I'd prefer to use reason and logic and sensibility, and, you know, you guys can figure it out, get to make sense of it. And this is a huge deal, you know, because if we use that pressure too much, then we are essentially saying might makes right.
Exactly.
And that's a poor lesson.
I rarely use that with my children. It's only when absolutely necessary.
Exactly.
Because actually being diplomatic works way better.
Oh yeah. And then too, if you are in that situation, now this is a nice real world application of this story. So you go with your kids and things are breaking down, and you extrapolate this out with the kids, and you have to take that preventative action, which is a little bit of pressure and forcefulness, right? Because you see that if you don't, then you end up in a big mess. So you have a time pressure that you have to. Now, if you do that, let's say whatever, you scold them or whatever the case may be, and you say, hey, come, you know, and you exercise a bit of forcefulness or pressure. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, go back and say, hey, you remember what happened earlier today? And I had to scold you, or whatever the case may be, give you a smack even, or whatever. Say, I don't want to do that, but you forced me into it. I had no choice. What is a better option? What would be a more ideal option? Look at it from my point of view. Yeah, I see you doing this. I see the problem. It's creating a problem. I need action now. Because you weren't in a space to listen, you forced me to. Now they see, hey, this is a last resort, and it's not that you think that you were right in doing that. No, you were doing it because you didn't have any other choices. And you explain the whole point to them. Now it's like, oh. And then they realize too, how they can get out of trouble, right? By being responsive to what's being said.
That's very effective. And I do that. And the result of that is the next time that situation comes up, I'm like, do you understand why that happened? And they go, yes. They go, yes, we understand. And they don't want to do that again. They're like,
there you go. And then Ryan, I was recommending this to share as well. Whenever you say, do you understand? Instead of asking them, do you understand? Say, could you explain your understanding?
Oh, good. That's better. Yeah.
Oh, it is huge. You are going to hear things that you never imagined, Ryan, when you ask this question.
Yeah. And you know what? And I like to ask my kids questions because I learned so much.
Yeah.
And I learned how to be a better parent because early on, I realized I wasn't doing everything, you know, the best way.
That's the part of parenting. It's learning, right?
Right. And there's better ways. And when you ask your children questions, they actually help you learn how to parent them better.
Oh, yeah. But specifically, this is a specific question, because when you ask them what they're thinking, this is kind of new stuff to you. But specifically when you explain something and then ask them to explain it back to you, this is a very profound exercise for multiple reasons. Because one, you are going to hear feedback on your own communications. You're going to hear how you are heard. And that is very enlightening. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Sometimes it's not that.
It's humbling. Yes. Oh, absolutely. It's like, oh my goodness. I did like what I said.
I sound like an a-hole.
Two different things. Yes, absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then also for them to get in the practice of testing their comprehension and explaining it back. Now you say, okay, yes, and you can adjust a little bit. Yes, you got it mostly, and just to add, and now you get to that point where there's actual, real, true understanding, and you can be sure you've understood, and they can be sure they've understood, and this is profound. It is unbelievably huge, especially for kids, because man alive, if I think back when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure there were many things that I know I understood completely different to how the person meant it. And they would have been very surprised to hear what I heard. It's like, and then later on I adjusted that, and updated it. But I got the wrong idea so many times, and I thought I understood. So
Right. Yeah, I get it. I understand. Yeah.
that's very profound.
I think.
Okay. No, guys, no problem.
Well, I think we all understand because we've all been children.
Exactly.
And we all had that perspective.
Still are.
It still are, but from parent to child. And if any of us have had children, we understand the parent to child relationship a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you get the different perspectives and you're like, oh, okay. That makes
sense. It's magical. Plus, when you ask them to explain back to you what you said, this becomes also, in addition to a comprehension exercise and a communication exercise, it becomes an exercise of practicing expression.
Mm.
So now not only do they get the chance to express themselves and articulate, because of course, and again, you create that mood and say, you don't have to get it exactly right, just more or less. And then they start to practice and develop that. Now, kids naturally have that where they don't think they need to get it right first time around. At least, some kids later they learn that and then they say, oh, I knew that. And they don't want to make mistakes. And then they stop learning. It's terrible. But also, it is for you. When you hear how you've been heard, this gives you feedback, which allows you to fine-tune and update your communications. And this is very profound. So the whole process is just magical. It's really, really magical, which is, what the takeaway sessions are all about. We seldom get into that because we're kind of still starting and it's new. So we're going to do that more and more, is to have this repeat back of things. Very, very exciting. Hello, Rachel. Hello. Very exciting. So this is a big deal to practice this repeating back of, when not only when we explain, to ask others to repeat back to us, but do it ourselves, to say, let me see if I heard you correctly. This is what I understood you to mean, and then explain it back. It's a very exciting process, very exciting. Because we never say it exactly the same way. There's always more that comes out.
Yeah. Well, lately I've just been listening a lot. Because I haven't had much to say. And
nice.
People, my takeaways this week is I wasn't really thinking about much or trying to think about my own thoughts. I was trying to hear other people's thoughts. So I was practicing listening this week. And I find that people like to talk.
Oh, yeah.
And
we noticed, Ryan, we noticed.
Yeah.
Well,
we all do. Yeah,
I know.
But I'm realizing I have this gift to what do we call it? Extrapolate.
Yeah.
Things out of people.
Yeah.
And
all have that gift.
Right. And that I'm here learning how to do that better. Where you listen to someone, what they're saying, and based on your response, you can either shut them down or open them up more.
Yeah.
Right. And get deeper and deeper. It's almost like a detective. I pretend I'm like this detective.
The life detective. Absolutely. Right. That's why that one session is called the life detective. It's all about exactly this. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what they're trying to tell me. Because I know they're trying to say something to me and they want to share something, but they don't really even understand what they're trying to share. But I keep asking these little questions and they keep opening up more. And sometimes it takes more than just one session with somebody. Because, you know what I mean? Like one guy, I'll say this, one guy at a place that we go out and eat at a restaurant, I built a relationship with him because he's a single guy in his 40s and he's had a hard life And I can tell that he just didn't have any friends or anyone close that just would listen to him, right? And so whenever I'd go in to get food, I would make a conversation, be friendly, and just chit chat. And you know, I have a way to get people talking about themselves. So I got him like talking about himself, ask him, you know, what he likes, his interests, things like that. And you know, this has been like a 6-month relationship that we've built. But each time he opens up more and more and more, and he shares more, like deeper, more intimate things with me.
Cool.
And the other night, we ordered in, and he's like, "I'll just come deliver it, no charge." So he came to me, to my house, and shared very deep, deep things with me. He came to my door and he said, "You're the only person I can talk to
Why?
about these kind of things."
Why?
And that was very special. That was just
That is. And you know what's special about that, Ryan? It's not that you had anything to offer him, except listening.
Right.
That's it. That's all you needed. You didn't need anything more than that, right?
It makes me a little bit sad though sometimes.
We can't do that. We just. I know. I hear you.
You know, just because when you really hear people, you just hear.
More.
A lot of people are very sad.
Yeah. And that's look where the thing ended here, right? The new nobility continually struggle with contradiction. They see too much. That's all right. So just
I know. I hate it.
I hear you. So just on an overview perspective, for all the ladies over here, we're talking, this is like man brain the way. We have to go lay it all out in detail. You guys are like, yeah, duh, man. And you've already jumped to the end of the thing. And now we're going through all the boring, but that's how our process is. We have to kind of lay it out step by step. You guys just jump right to the end. So everything we said was kind of like duh, all the way through, but that's just how our brains work. We like that step-by-step stuff. You guys just jump right to the end pretty much. Now, it's not always such a sexual thing, you know. It can obviously be the reverse, you know, but still, just in general, I've found that. You know, I hate to generalize, but sometimes it's accurate. So, Donna, sorry, I'm keen to hear Donna's perception on this, because just Donna had such a nice summation of the intuitive side of things.
Right.
What do you think about our man talk, laying it all out?
I feel as though for me it can very much fluctuate between what I do. A lot of times I jump, but I can be very much like Ryan. And so it feels like a perfect marriage of the two.
Yes, you do have that nice balance, which is why I was asking you to comment.
Oh, I don't mean necessarily me. I just
I know you didn't mean you. I'm just teasing you a little bit.
Oh,
but it's true though that
what I've observed with other people. Yeah, it's like I would just feel as though what Ryan was saying about and help me with the name, Ryan. Janelle, that's such a beautiful name.
Yes, he says my wife. You should say Janelle more. I agree.
Janelle, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
So beautiful. Anyway, when you were talking about that, that's what came to my mind. Just a perfect marriage of the two, and how that complements one another, and how it just fits. And I would imagine in observing other people that those things can switch. There may be times where she needs that processing, and other times you jump. And then when you're in that flow, though, it's magical, because you both know where each other is at, and it just flows beautifully. That's what I have observed from my perspective anyway.
I love that. So just, you know, for me, what I take away from what Donna said is you get into a state where there's appreciation and understanding of where each other at. And when you have that appreciation and understanding, then you can and react to it as appropriate. And also what you're saying, Donna, what really sticks for me is that the roles can flip and reverse.
I feel so, yes.
Yeah. We just need practice, for instance, as guys, to be more intuitive. We have those same intuitions. We just need practice. And the same thing, to create space, you know, for also just to express. We all have the ability to express ourselves in detail and clearly, and we just need practice.
The tool I feel as though Ryan has really applied effectively is the power pause. Right. And connecting to the intuitive. That's how I feel.
Yes.
Is that accurate, Ryan? Has that been a tool for you to connect to that intuitive side?
Oh yeah. and I've always kind of had a natural ability to do that a little bit, because I've just always been a good listener. It's kind of like a natural ability, I think. But I'm just learning how to use it.
And to do it consciously and deliberately.
Yeah,
Right.
because we all have it. Absolutely. It's just
Yeah.
getting into it and tapping into it.
Yeah, I'm learning how to tap into that more.
Cool.
You know.
And use it deliberately, right, Ryan?
Yes, and this week I used it a lot deliberately.
Why?
Pausing, because when people talk, all these things will start to come up, you know, and you'll have all these ideas like, oh, well, I need to tell them this or this or this or this or this. And you have to like pause and like shut your mouth and just keep yourself from talking and just wait, be patient, you know, and just wait and wait and wait and just let them kind of get it out. And to the end, and then they'll pause, and then that opens up a space to where you can share something. Now, and a lot of times I've wanted to share like how they could fix their problem or this or this or that. And that's the man brain.
The mansplaining part. Yeah.
Right. Because we like to help people fix things. You know, oh, you got a broken toilet? I can fix that. You know, I'm good at fixing things. I'm really good. But to learn how to use the more feminine aspect, that's what I'm learning. Like I'm good at the masculine, but the feminine, the intuitive, and not telling them like how to fix their problem, but just really just listening.
Yeah.
And just being like, oh, that was this, or this. This is what I heard you say. And that's it. And that's it. And that's all they really wanted in the first place. They didn't want me to fix anything.
Exactly. Ryan, what we don't realize sometimes is the listening is the fix.
Exactly. And I never really knew that. I never understood that.
It's profound. It's profound.
But being married has helped me. Obviously, this is helping me a lot. But I'm glad I'm married because I can practice this on a daily basis. Because my wife, when she talks to me, Janelle, sorry, I'll so Janelle, when I talk to Janelle, very rarely does she ever want me to fix something.
Yeah.
Because my default is, oh, yeah, you just need to do this, and that. I'll take care of
right there.
Problem.
Right.
And she's like, I don't want you to fix anything. Like,
she doesn't quite say it that way, but
right.
I know.
But
I'm just teasing.
She just wants me to listen.
Yeah.
Because she's trying to get all of this stuff out.
Why?
And by allowing and giving her space to get it out, it allows her to get to what she's really trying to say.
Yeah.
A lot of times she doesn't even know.
Why?
You know what I mean? What she's trying to say. She's trying to filter through all of this stuff. And by speaking it out loud, like what you said, by getting it out, she's releasing it and letting it go.
And the same applies for us, right, Ryan? The same applies for us. Sometimes we just need to get it out there. Yeah.
Get it out. So
huge.
It's good. Yeah, it's all good.
Isn't that magical? And sure, in terms of what we were saying earlier about sharing our own stuff, when we do that and we get it out there, that creates the space for us to hear.
Exactly.
It's just amazing how that works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need to, because if we don't have our stuff out, then it needs to come out, and it keeps getting in the way of us hearing, because it's kind of clouding our focus, because it always wants to come out. So, you know, in terms of writing out your story, sharing your story, talking it, like Cher's been making like a daily video to have her thoughts of the day expressed, and that it's really magical, right? The intent, that was what your focus was, that you shifted to understand what the purpose of those are. Your intent behind the communication, it is there to get to a space where you can hear. And so just go by steps. But the more you express yourself and the more you release your stories, those stories of pressure, the more you get into a space to hear. And then conversely, strangely enough, sure, once we have all of our past stories out and we really start to hear, then they pull new things from us, and it's quite the magical thing. Rachel.
Yes, I just want to give you a quick example. I think to see if I'm understanding what you're saying. I do, but I just want to make sure.
Excellent.
There was a friend of mine who just put it out there that, you know, she should just cut her hair and, you know, take off all her jewelry and, you know, all this stuff to change herself, because she said no matter what she does, it seems to be, you know, everything she does, she feels makes everybody unhappy with her, from her looks to her decisions to what she says to what she puts out to the world. And I sat and thought about that for a while after I read it. And the first thing that came out of me was, you know, you have to be true to you, nobody else. And then the last thing I let her know was, you know, comparing yourself to others and allowing yourself to be driven by others, and what they're trying to shape you into is not being true to yourself. The last thing I told her, because somebody else was talking about how, you know, comparing ourselves to others can really pull us down. The last thing I told her was celebrate your difference. And I wasn't talking about celebrating others' differences. I was talking to encourage her to celebrate her uniqueness, her individuality, her difference from others. So where that came from was, I've often felt that way about me.
Hey, there it is.
So I took what I learned from my own self and from sharing my own stuff and feeling like, you know, that way, because boy, I could really identify with what he was saying. I just let her know, you know, without saying, well, in my experience, in my lesson, I just let her know that just be true to you. And the reaction from that was, wow, holy cow. Not just from her, but from all of her friends. We're just like, I don't know who this lady is, but holy cow. She loves you a lot. Which I do. And I expressed my love to her in just a few statements.
Yeah, because you were sharing your truth. That's what you were sharing.
What was that?
Really. And through hearing her, it connected to your truth and it pulled up what is real and true for you inside. Through your sharing, you'd come to be aware of your truth.
Yes.
And you shared that with her.
Yeah. And it went through beautifully, and it wasn't a long statement or anything. It was just a few short, simple sentences of encouragement and belief to her that I believe in her and I believe in myself. But the way it came out was she took it and received it well, because I heard her. I heard what she was saying. Just so that's what I'm asking you is that, you know, basically what we're talking about is just that when we're in that space of hearing others, we can hear ourselves, we can see ourselves, and then we can share that knowledge that, okay, you know, here it is, here's a truth. So right. Okay. I just need to make sure.
Right. I mean, and then just how exactly we communicate that, you know, in some spaces, sometimes you say it directly, but generally when we say it, you know, this is what's been really profound for me, or this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing, you know, celebration of self as being something that you're not quite comfortable with. And then you're giving your perspective, your opinion. You're not saying she should celebrate herself. You're sharing what you are hearing. And she might say, oh, well, it's not quite what I meant. But, you know, you just have that diplomacy of communication. So, yes, the underlying elements are there now. It sounded like you expressed it in a very appropriate manner. But I'm just adding that layer, though, because sometimes we have to be very particular about the nature and the style, the preciseness of how we express. And so often what we say is perfect, but how we say it can completely change what we say. So, and how it's heard.
What I was afraid of, it happened. I struggle with what I have in my brain coming out of my mouth. So
yeah, exactly.
It didn't
so
come out right. It came out right to her and to others who read it. Right now, it didn't.
Yeah. That's all good. You know, if we just add those two little power words, for me, then it shifts the brain to saying what you feel and you believe. And we tend to know what we believe generally, and we have a connectivity to that. And sometimes not always, but mostly. But when you're starting to say something for somebody else, then your brain now has to try and figure out how are they going to hear it, what's most appropriate to them. And now it becomes a very complicated thing because it's all based on assumptions. But when you just say, for me, and you shift your brain to sharing your truth for you, now that's something that you already know and it's easier to express. So that we just shift the brain in terms of its agenda and makes things much simpler when we do that. Go ahead, Ryan.
I like the magic of Cher's intent. Because I just seen like her intent to understand herself and the intent of the self-discovery drew that friend to her to give her the opportunity to hear herself and to understand. You know what I mean? Because her intent to understand herself drew her friend to say those things, and she was saying that to herself. But it was giving her practice to listen, to hear herself. See, and then once she heard, she's like, "Oh wow!" She heard it, and then she said it out loud, and she made it hers. And she's like, "Oh, that is who I am," and that's what she wanted. She wanted to understand who she was more. And that's just kind of like what I was. From the whole thing.
I love what you're saying, Ryan. I just want to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying, because this is what I've taken. What you just said now is very magical to me. In other words, I heard Ryan saying
practicing
that it's fantastic. That sure. I'm just gonna say it in a like if I'm kind of Ryan, like you had an intent to self-discover. That intent to self-discover brought this other friend into your life, and what they said was an opportunity for you to connect to your own self-discovery and be more conscious and clear about it. And in saying it back to this friend, this manifestation, let's just call it, you got that clarity of self because you had that intent to start with. And this was an opportunity, practice it, to put it into activity, to express it. Is that what you were saying, Ryan?
Yep.
I mean, I asked it correctly. Now, how does that connect to how it was for you, Sher? Because that's kind of because I agree with Shine. With Ryan, I feel the same way. So is our perception of things, does it have some merit?
I think, let me see if I can explain it again. I read a post. The post was very heartfelt, written by my friend.
All right.
She was very distraught over how she was feeling others were perceiving her. And that she felt that she was just worthless and couldn't do anything right.
Wow.
My intent was to let her know, number one, that I heard her, that I heard what she was saying, and that I heard her pain.
Wow.
And so, but instead of calling it pain, I just let her know that I celebrate who she is, and was asking her to do the same, and to let her know that I heard her.
Wow.
And through that, the response was one of her response to me and from her friends was of love and encouragement, just acceptance, that all women needed to hear that message, that we are who we are, and to celebrate who we are, regardless of what others think of us. So the whole thing started out with just hearing her, just saying, I hear you. And then I came back to you and let you know that, okay, I get it now.
Wow. Yeah. But I just loving that. Say the last part again, please, sir.
There could be more.
Right. I just think there's a magic from the universe's point of view. That was, let's just take this friend as a like an alternative, sir. And you are getting the exact same thing that you were in her position a little while back, sharing your story. And now you are, in essence, listening to yourself and giving yourself the appropriate response, which was good for you. Right. Yeah?
Yes.
You're just following.
Okay.
It's just magical, just unbelievably magical.
It's like it feels like for me a universal gift where the flow out to your friend is love, and what's coming back into you from a flow is self-awareness, and it's just circling around in magic.
Right.
And self-love and self-appreciation and
Right?
celebration of self.
All that implies.
Yes, 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 yes. What magic, what magic. And I like that, Ryan, you connected it to, you had a deep, deep intent for self-exploration, self-discovery. And this is a part of that. Manifests this so that you can get this external feedback on yourself from the other side, right? You just kind of switch positions.
Right. Right.
Nothing is as it appears.
There's
Right.
always more. There's always more.
You know, I'm just her sharing helped me understand the value in hearing and listening, and how big a deal it actually is.
Right.
Because if you truly want to discover who you are, you have to get good at listening.
Yes, yes, and that was the point of the whole day, right? Sure. You know, when you said that, the thing that you pulled out of me was that the idea to learn to hear yourself.
Yes.
Isn't that exactly what happened in that post? Was actually kind of like in an abstract way. It was actually you talking to you through your friend.
I guess I never saw that.
And that's something. I mean, you had
Yeah,
that profound intent to self-discover. So now you are seeing yourself from the other side. It's incredible. Just incredible.
It's magical how we all interact, and we can cue each other to help each other with certain things.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure people have cued me, and I went and said something where I'm like, I don't even know why I said that, but maybe they needed to hear that. They were, you know what I mean? They were cueing me subconsciously, and I went and said it, and that's because that's what they needed to hear.
Bye. Bina.
Oh, yes.
So, just interesting.
Yeah. There's more, Bina?
Okay, yes. First, when we were reading that chapter 3 from Biella series, I feel that my mind was quite focused on awkward pause, but now when we're reading that and how the story is unfolding, it shows that sometimes not only awkward pause are difficult to deal with, but awkward communication. When someone is sharing something which feel a bit awkward or not relevant in that situation, not appropriate in that situation, to holding your words and keep hearing, try to hear what they are trying to communicate is a bit awkward. Yes, sometimes it is, and I'm kind of getting a different perspective. If not a different perspective, but at least a focus on that thing. But yes, hearing is also a bit a profound thing, a profound tool to deal with awkward communication, the awkwardness of communication, actually.
Yeah.
And about this sharing just to feel heard, I feel that, again, I'm saying this in a different perspective now, that when a person feels ready to share with someone, when a person feels that, okay, now I want to share this with someone, it means that he or she is ready, already jump out of that phase of just dwelling themselves and pondering and all these things on this issue, but now they want to leverage themselves.
Yes.
So that thing, because they want to get the actual realization of this issue which they are dealing with or situation. Because when we say things out loud, we actually accept our own words. And okay, yes, this is the situation. And when a person is listening to me, it means that I cannot just exaggerate anything. I cannot minus or subtract or add anything. I need to be really truthful about the situation. And when I hear my own words in my own voice, the actual situation again, it gives me a real perspective of it, real issue. So for me, I feel, again, I see the hope that when a person is ready, feels ready to share with someone, just for the sake of sharing, means that she is now out of that self-pity zone or whatever the situation, or depressing or anything. Now she or he wants to actually get the real idea and accepting that, okay, yes, this is the situation and I have to deal with this. So that's why they sometimes just want to just need someone to hear what they're saying. That's why, because they just want to get the real idea about it. No exaggeration, no subtraction, nothing. Just actual hardcore real idea about the situation. So it is a very powerful tool, a very powerful mechanism to be real in the situation.
And here's the thing, when we really, really hear, even if we don't say a word, we are providing immense amounts of feedback just in the hearing process. It's just enormous. It's really...
yes, and from the perspective of a person who is hearing, who is listening to other person and not giving them any perspective and nothing, just being there. It is like, okay, now I can say things. I am giving you power to judge and also to calculate and also to be real in your situation. So I am giving you a power just by being there and just by listening. I'm giving you the power. So my presence is giving power to the person. When Ryan is listening to Janelle, I'm pronouncing her name right? Your wife?
Janelle,
He is actually giving her power. Okay, I'm here. I'm listening. You are absolute power here. Just share what you want to, and I'm giving you power just by being here. That's it. It is really powerful just to listen, just to hear.
Both give each other power. We really share, and when we really listen, it's a power exchange in both.
I know this, and I'm not trying to, I don't want this to sound sexual in any way, but the picture that popped in my head when you were saying all this stuff, I pictured myself as this pole, and it's a very strong pole with a very deep foundation, and it rises way up into the sky, right? It's very strong. That's me. You know, I'm this pole, and I'm here just to be a pole and just sit here. And my wife, she's, you know, we could just look at her as herself, and I'm just there so that she can climb me. And she can reach up into the heavens, because I just want to be here as like a foundation, stable foundation. So I give her the opportunity to get to where she wants to go.
Exactly. But Ryan, in this case, you are a male figure, and she is a female figure in this situation. It could be reverse. When you want to share something and Janelle here just to listen, she will be in your position. So when
and that's what we're learning. We're learning how to do both roles.
That's the magic of I'm sorry, Bina.
No. So it is not about, you are not being any gender specific or anything. No, you're just sharing what it is, the role you are playing when you are listening to her. So exactly. When a person is listening and providing them the power that, okay, yes, I'm here, I'm listening, you just throw out, just set it out. So it is, you are like a pole with a huge, strong foundation to rely on.
To realize that we can reverse these, our traditional roles and the way we come up with, that's a starting point. Part of the magic of marriage to realize that we can invert these and learn, and then we can even combine them and we get something else. Exactly. There's more. It's a starting point, not an end point. So
I mean,
starting point.
really, this is what all the sages talk about with spiritual development. Spiritual development is really about joining the yin and the yang, the male, the masculine,
Exactly.
and becoming both.
More.
Whole. And that's the angels. The angels, it says this in the Bible, that the angels have no gender.
Wow.
And they don't marry each other because they're genderless beings.
Right.
Because they're
Good.
a perfect balance of masculine and feminine together.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
Exciting perspective.
and that's what we're learning to become.
Yeah.
Like the angels, you know, a
Yeah.
perfected being, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, angels coming later into the story.
Oh, okay.
I'm keen to hear from Mary and Rachel on this as well. Just everything we've been saying. Mary?
Yeah, you know, listening is definitely a superpower, because you are leaving space for that person that just needs to let go of something. Perfect example was this friend of mine the other day, and it turned into a little bit of a perspective shift for me.
Ah.
I really don't like, you know, I'm not all about listening to the negative stuff. I really, you know, not my thing. But this person had an issue, and they had lost their job, and they were going on and whining, and I just let them talk. And I let her finish her story without stopping her, which normally I would have said, hey, I don't want to listen to this. So I just let her finish it out. And when she was done, I said, isn't your family coming to visit for the holidays? And she said, yeah, but I'm still not working. I said, well, look all the time you're going to have now to spend with your kids and your grandkids.
Right.
You know, I said, so isn't this going to be better? I said, besides, the snowbirds come back after the beginning of the year, and she's a caregiver. So I said, you'll have a job. Once the snowbirds come back, there will be people that'll be looking for just what she does.
Right.
I said, look at it as a vacation for now. And she's like, oh, thank you. You know, I didn't even think about that. You know, and she walked off with a smile on her face versus being miserable for the rest of the day. So I said, wow, all right, good. So I sort of gave her something back positive where she was never going to go. Because it's just her personality is always like, she feeds into anything negative that happens every time.
So she got consumed in an immersion bubble of negativity, and all she had was just consider. And you heard the more of her story, which was really, well, hey, you know what? This is only temporary, and there's other opportunity. And you just shared the more that you heard from that. Yeah.
And knowing that her family was coming, I knew that's something like she really cherishes that time, because she doesn't get it always. So, you know, and she wasn't thinking about that. It was more, oh, I'm not working. I don't have my money coming in. And, like, you know, it's, you know what? Take a vacation.
Yeah, it's always more. You see, when we have perspective shifting, we see things in a bigger context, and when we bring overview context into perspective, then we really start to hear the moreness of the world. It's like that Cher's story where she was sharing, right? Cher, we did the same thing. Just when we looked at it from an overview perspective, you were hearing you. And you saw intent manifestation, and you got a profound perspective on yourself. You got to be your own audience.
Yes.
Isn't that magical?
Yeah, it is.
Incredibly magical.
It is. And like Mary was saying, I mean, yeah, we do learn a lot by just sitting and listening. And to me, I call it hearing or listening. They're both the same.
Yeah. Hearing slightly, we just say hearing because it's that capital H hearing. So
yeah. And there's always that default to wanting to fix something for somebody else. We can't fix it for somebody else. We can only fix things for ourselves as far as who we are and what we want to be.
Right.
You know, but trying to fix it for somebody else, forget it. You know, I'm through with being the people pleaser too. That's the other thing.
Nice, Mary.
I'm done with it. I'm done with it because it goes nowhere, because you're stuck. You're stuck when you try to please everybody, because it's never going to happen.
Yes.
You know, 'cause everybody sees life a different way. You know, like those that want to get the Cher's friend. You know, she was trying to think about change how she looks for other people. That's only about their perspective. It's not about her.
Bye.
You know, and to me that's sad when people think that they have to fix themselves physically that way for someone else's approval.
Yeah.
That's, you know, it's a waste.
Yeah. And I think why I heard her in that point was because that was me for so many years. I mean, different looks for everything, different clothes, different hair, different way of talking, different everything. And then most recently, you know, yes, I'm changing, but I am not going to change who I am at my core self. For
There you
but
go. There you go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's,
exciting.
you know, why do that? It's, you have
not
to be
everybody
true to
like
who
me.
you are and not what somebody else perceives you as being.
Bye.
Yep. I don't have the eloquent, flowery language, and that's okay. You know, I'm not gonna take another 6 years of college just to try and, you know, re-educate my vocabulary. It is what it
Exactly.
is.
You don't need to. You're very expressive.
No.
You can be expressive in simple things. It's the intent that is what's expressive, not the words.
One of the
If you
things that
realize that changes everything.
one of the takeaways I'm hearing from everybody that's pretty cool is that interactions, every single one, if you step back and kind of look at it from the broader perspective, is an opportunity to learn about yourself. Sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming and a bit scary. For me, I was freaked out by that. And through this course and through this group, I am actually shifting that to embracing it, which feels really good, much different than it used to. And I would give a big hug to Bina's point in that when she was talking about the flow and shifting it, whoever is in the relationship, whatever relationship it is, husband and wife, friends, boss, employee, whatever titles you want to throw out there in this world, the titles don't matter. It's the flow between the two. And they absolutely can shift. And that's a whole shift, that's a whole paradigm shift of convention. And I feel like that's what this group is about.
Bye. Oh, it's absolutely what it's about. It's more than just a shift between the two, but between the 3, 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, whatever. The group has its own shift. Yeah, it's very profound.
I like how Donna was just kind of sitting there in the background, you know, taking it all in. And
I love it
I'm
too.
gonna give you this overview.
Oh, yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. I love it too. All right, now I want to hear from the listener. We had somebody listening this whole time, and Rachel has such magnificent listening abilities. I just imagine. So, all right, Rachel, it's time for you to share some of your listening. I'm keen to hear from you, Rachel. Keen to hear.
In the hot seat now, am I?
Not really. No, not really. If you have nothing to say, then say, I'm in listening mode. I've got nothing to say. You're welcome to. I just want to make sure that, you know, that there's space for you to share if you have something to share. If you don't, that's cool too.
Yeah, I'm just listening to everybody.
Brilliant. There you go. That's all. And is the listening in any way resonating, connecting, stuff, feeling? Yeah.
Well, it kind of like woke me up a little bit when everybody was saying going on about spirituality. I was like, oh, what?
Right. Yeah, that was a big point. How when we have an intent, when we have a really deep intent, things manifest in response to that intent, and sometimes they don't manifest in ways that we easily recognize, but actually is. That's a very subtle perception, but very, very powerful. So when we start to add to our hearing, part of hearing is to say, how does this connect to my intent? How is this something I need to hear or want to hear? That becomes a very profound aspect. And when we add that to capital H hearing, that when we start to listen, we almost inevitably realize and understand that when we get into hearing mode, we almost always end up hearing something that's profoundly magical and valuable to us personally?
Power hearing.
Power hearing. There you go.
Well,
Yes. I love that. Oh, I love that. I
well,
love
one
that.
thing in my life that's taught me one thing is people who always come across as impatient. Sorry, my words are failing me today. Or like argumentative or angry or nasty, blah blah blah.
Uh-huh.
Those are the type of people that always grow up to be the best listeners.
Wow.
Because that's exactly how I was. Once upon a time, I would never have listened to anyone and would have had an opinion about everything. And on some level, I still kind of do to this day. I always have an opinion that I'm always just like, I got an opinion. Everyone listen to it. But like, people always thought that I was going to end up being that one person that would grow up to be some kind of regressive arsehole that would just go out and beat people up. And turns out that all of them were wrong. I mean, there was this guy that I knew as a teenager, but ages ago, and he, when I knew him, I was 14 and he was like 18, but he was my brother's friend. He kept coming to the house for a bloody reason. And he got in contact with me recently. So
Wow.
when he knew me last, I was argumentative, I was aggressive, I would always see my arse over every little thing. I had an opinion about everything. I always had an answer for everything. And then when he was like talking to me, basically came out with this massive analysis of his entire attitude and why he's currently addicted to drugs, and associating that with stress, which is what all addicts do. They associate what they're addicted to with stress, not necessarily just like alcohol or drugs, but it could be anyone with addictive personality.
Right.
And came up with this massive sheet of things. He was just like, wow, I can see you grew up to be intelligent. And I was like trying to say I wasn't.
Brilliant. Yeah,
It's just
we're all intelligent if we make space for our intelligence.
But there's this thing about being unintelligent. You can always learn to be intelligent.
We have to make space for our intelligence. We have to make space for it.
Not necessarily making space for it. It's more along the lines of anyone can learn to do anything. Any skill you have, somebody else 1,000 years ago has already had that skill.
Right. That's what I mean. You just get into that space where you think it's possible, which is making space for it, and then you just can go from there. Rachel, let me ask you this. Do you think that your listening skills are directly or inversely proportional to the fact that you got to express all your stuff? You got it all out, and the more you got it out, the more it created the ability for you to become a listener.
No.
You don't think it's related?
It's not related. I can tell you as a fact it's not related.
Oh, how do you mean?
Because I said before, like, I would never be able to get a word in. I always had to listen to people anyway, so it's a skill that that was technically forced on me by not allowing me to have an opinion.
But I
So
mean,
now I just like withdraw myself and just
right.
listen.
But that's little L listening. I mean, capital L listening, hearing, right? The ability to listen willingly. That was forced listening, right? But to get to where you were willing to listen deliberately and of your own choice, you already got all your stuff out of you. And the more you got it out, the more it created that space and ability to now not have that pressure to get it out.
Well, where I was trying to come from was it, because I've never been allowed to have that opinion. I've never been allowed to like technically express it. I've had to force listen to people, and then that just evolved into me being able to like calm down, be more patient, let people say what they want to say, and then it just evolved and evolved. And it wasn't until actually I was looking at a YouTuber called Charisma on Command, I've seen him many times, who basically told me just to slow down a little bit. He was just like, just calm down, just slow down, and observe the world, not necessarily listen to the world, but just observe what's happening. And because I'm in a big family and I've got loads of brothers that all still live at home, I just basically sat down and did that. And I was observing rather than listening.
Right.
And then I came to this group, and capital L learn, capital H hearing, I'll listen. Still learning the language, the lingo. And it's basically the same thing, rather than just because when you see something as it really is, you're just sitting down and you're observing, and you're not really like just seeing what's around you. You're looking deeper, and you're looking at things in a whole different kind of like mindset and perspective. And you're like, you see a lot of weird things, but then when you translate that to listening, it's the same thing.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, I'm already good at this.
Haha,
Awesome.
yes. So capital H hearing, it's actually not just listening to what people say, but to what they mean, what they intend, what's implied, and there's a whole connectivity. So very seldom do we actually get to, in our words, say the fullness of what we're saying. You know, it's like my background here. There's always more to what we say, and when we capital H hear, we are listening to that more. In other words, to to the intent, the feeling, the greatness, the implications, all of that. And like you said, there's just this magical world that's implied from what we say. It's very magical when we start to really, really hear and listen to that more. It opens up all sorts of stuff. And in connection with Cher's point from the start, when she texted me earlier, it's that to hear ourselves. When we really hear others, we learn to hear ourselves, because, of course, everyone else is us in some variation of us. We're all us. We're all of us together, just in various different ways. Yeah?
That's why I'm a beast in politics.
Yeah, well, all of us have that capability. So we get to hear, when we hear Rachel, we get to hear, hey, you know what? I have that side in me too. I don't exercise it much, but I have that side in me. So now I get to hear that little side of me expressed and in fullness through Rachel or through Cheryl, Donna, whatever the various sides of us are. So we get to understand that, hey, we can be anyone, and we can also be everyone. In the end, when we get to that angel state, it's like we've taken everybody and we've put it all together, and we have the capability to be that particularness if the situation requires it. Right? So we learn to be appropriate in any circumstance. And this is a magic we kind of all seek, because when we have that ability to be appropriate in whatever the circumstance calls for and to be able to shift to that, that is an incredible, incredible power. Yeah?
Yeah, but an angel is a perfect being, right?
Kind of, yeah. But
so you saw my post the other day about perfection.
Yeah.
It's a dead end. Don't want to be an angel.
Well, yes and no. Did you see the reply to that? If you read that, it depends on how we define perfection. Rachel,
perfection doesn't include all the imperfections too.
Correct. Correct.
So,
that's my definition of perfection. Say again.
What's one is a philosophical question for you then.
Right.
Name one imperfect quality about an angel.
An imperfect quality about an angel? They don't know everything.
But they live with God, who does know everything. So by proxy, they do.
Well, we assume that God knows everything. Maybe God himself doesn't know everything either.
If we go by the interpretations of Christians, or if you go by my own personal philosophy.
Right. Well, again, yeah. Right. Knowing all information isn't necessarily the same as having wisdom.
God is supposed to be the pinnacle of being.
Right. That's an assumption. So we have to question that assumption. Just because they assume something to be so doesn't necessarily make it so, yeah?
Well, one could argue that an imperfect quality about an angel could be the fact that it always strives for order.
There you go. Exactly.
And that is
another one.
With
I
an
agree.
Angel. All they can see is they can only see things in terms of.
Right.
So if you interrupt that order, then they will stop at nothing to correct that imperfection and turn it back into perfection.
Right.
So therefore, is it really worth it?
What I heard was when you were talking about becoming everything to everyone. Like I've heard stories where angels, they've taken different forms. They have the ability to take a form of a human and different types of humans and even animals too. And these are just personal stories from people that I know personally that have had interactions with angels.
Wow.
An angel is a spiritual being, and spiritual beings don't have a physical form. They are actually formless and genderless. Every soul and everything on a spiritual level is formless and genderless.
Right.
So therefore, it stands to reason that they could take on different forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just making the point that, when we hear each other, that when we really hear someone else, we get to say, oh, here's a potential way of being that, oh, maybe I could use this in certain circumstances. And when we hear, especially when we hear people's struggles, we hear their truths, we get to understand that, oh, in this situation, that would be appropriate or not. And then we get to know more about ourselves. And that's very exciting. That's very exciting.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Sorry,
no,
you can go.
go ahead, Bina.
I've taken up enough time.
Bina?
Is she saying something?
No, it's just saying, go ahead.
I have a question. Okay, thank you, Rachel. I just want to ask that what is the difference between observing and hearing, capital H hearing?
That's a good question.
Who's answering? Is Rachel answering?
Yeah, I'm keen to ask for Rachel.
Oh, you want me to answer the question? Sorry.
Any of you.
Go
this
ahead,
is
Rachel.
for everyone else. Well, for me, when you observe something, you're using your eyes, your physical eyesight, and you're looking behind the scenes. If you see somebody, like for example, if you see a woman walking quite briskly, and she's got like loads of shopping in her hands, then all you'll see is a woman walking with shopping in her hands, and then you come with your assumption, oh, she's doing shopping. But if you actually look behind the scenes, you'll notice even more the way she's walking, the amount of steps she's taking, what direction she's going towards, why she's going in that direction, body language, what her body's saying physically whilst it's moving.
Yeah.
And it's just general things like that, the look on her face, the way she holds herself, for example.
So you could say, if I were just to paraphrase what you said, Rachel, that when we observe, we just take in the facts. When we hear, we take in the implications of those facts.
I heard it different than that.
Ah, cool. Go ahead, Anna.
I heard Rachel, for me, it sounded as though in observation, you're looking at a situation using a particular sense, primarily your eyes, but you're using the more of your eyes. And we're hearing, your primary senses would be your hearing through your ears, but when you hear versus listening, you're pulling back and looking at the abstract and what's behind the words. Yeah. So kind of the same, it felt like for me, kind of the same process of stepping back and looking at something from a deeper perspective. It just varied in what the primary senses were used.
Yes.
That's how it felt to me.
Donna, when we're applying this to listening to somebody, yes, we shifted that capital H hearing to be primarily in the audio sense, but of course we can also use that same thing and say capital S seeing somebody, which is the same process. When you go into the capitalized version, you are associating and connecting to the greater abstract overview perspective. And this is what I mean with the implications and the perspective shifting and all that. We see them more, and that's what capital H hearing and capital H seeing is, which really is, if we want to put it all together, it's capital P perceiving somebody.
Exactly.
Now, what Bina was saying, what's the difference between observing and hearing? Was that the original question?
Yes.
Now, I guess, could it be the difference between listening and hearing? Maybe we could
that.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can say that.
Or little L listening and capital L listening, or little H.
Or, I mean, because what I was hearing, maybe it could be the difference between, I don't know what that noise is. Verse.
I don't know. Some wild noise we're hearing here from somewhere.
It's a stampede.
Yeah, stampede. I don't know. Some. Maybe it was sewing machine or something. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
No,
anyway.
my sound has been off the whole time.
Right. I don't know. It's really weird. Okay.
Yeah, but I've contemplated the difference between knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and I kind of put it in like in an order. Like first comes knowledge, then comes understanding, and then comes wisdom, and it's like a leveled thing, like the depth of it, going from the surface down to the bottom of the ocean, let's just say. Okay, and knowledge is at the forefront, right? And then it gets a little bit deeper to the understanding aspect, and then the wisdom is the actually application of it all, right?
Useful application.
Useful application.
Yeah.
So the difference between maybe listening and hearing, or capital L listening and lowercase l listening, like from my perspective, is the difference between surface level and depth. Where we actually take the knowledge and convert it into the wisdom, and we're able to actually, we're actually to make it our own, recite it back, and make it useful to us. Where with lowercase listening, we're not able to do that process. It's just
okay. I got it.
So more. That's
right.
the word.
So lowercase listening, we kind of just store the information in these little tanks in our brain. It just gets like filed.
Right.
And it's not really useful. It's just sitting there. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, junk's coming in, and it's just there. Right. But then when we like open that file and take it out and like read over it and process it, and like, many times, kind of go over and like try to figure out, well, how can we use this information and use it?
And very specifically, the capital L's, the deeperness. It's when we take the information that's come in, and we connect it to the more.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the key difference, that connecting to the more.
Okay, I heard Rachel, and what she's saying, it was about observation, keen observation, and using senses and collecting data, and which is right, yes, at one perspective. And what Ryan shared, I connect more with that yes, this is how we do things. For me, when I use the term capital H, hearing and observation, it was just kind of an umbrella term for seeing, hearing, listening, and observation. And what I feel now, that when we make connection with the other person, we establish and maintain that connection, then we actually do capital H hearing.
Yes.
And when we just see things from a overview perspective, and without having any connection, without maintaining any connection with that person, personal connection, then we just do observe and listening and hearing, a small case hearing and listening. So it's about having and maintaining that connection. What connection is a connection of unconditional love again, and about care and empathy and other so many words we have in terms. So it is about having a connection and maintaining that connection. For me, after hearing you and Rachel, this is what I count.
A connection without reservations.
Yes, actually.
Without any limitations, and saying, hey, I'm here, I'm hearing whatever you have to say, it's okay.
Right.
So there's no reservations, no restrictions.
Yes, but yes, it includes observation also. It includes listening also.
Yes,
because
and the more.
We try to listen, we try to hear more than just words and tone and everything.
Yes.
So,
Yes, we're listening to intent. We're listening to aspirations. We're listening to ambitions. We're listening to motivations. We're listening to desires. We're listening to history, to past, to sorrows, to feelings, to all of this we're hearing. And we're hearing also bubble sometimes, like in the case of Mary's friend. And then we see, there's an alternative perspective. So we hear the more, which is that, the broader perspective. Just look at it. So, now very powerful. Donna has a point, I feel. Donna? Something to share, perspective. You there, Donna?
I am. For me, I feel as though we are all coming at the same spot, like your design behind you, just using different words,
Yes.
which
Yes.
for me is
Yes.
really magical to hear.
Yes. 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 It's very magical. So in that implication, though, it's about awareness. The entire conversation that we are talking about is one about awareness. No?
Yes, perfect.
This is it. In order to hear, in order to listen, in order to see someone, in order to feel someone, in order to truly connect with someone, we need to develop that awareness so that we don't just listen from a bubble. We don't just see within a bubble. We don't just see and feel them from our perspectives only, but we see things from a greater, more overall, and we just have that step back where we can let the perceptions come to us without us putting it onto things, so we are open to surprise. I think this is, for me, if I'm really hearing somebody, I'm open to newness, I'm open to what I don't expect, I'm open to difference, and that is really profound. And then we discover that more, that magic that's unbelievable, and we get that connectivity. It's like, oh wow, 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 I love that. Ah, man, it's really awesome.
It's cool because now you're tapping into that fluid reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then
you're like,
yes.
you know, and you're like getting in that flow state where you're like, okay, I'm going to open it up and just kind of like see what's going to come next.
Yes.
You know, it's like you're in a
Wow.
raft. You're in this raft. You're going down a river.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's a corner
Yes.
up ahead, and you don't know if there's going to be big
But,
rapids or a waterfall. And you're like, I don't know what's going on.
right. And Ryan, what's so magical is when we get into that, what you're saying, the fluid reality state is because when we really start to hear and we open up and we let go of all our preconceptions and our ideas and beliefs and we just let it come to us, we realize in that connectivity, we change by hearing.
Exactly.
And this is huge, you know, because it's implications, it's understandings, it's new connectivities, and we get to that moreness, and hopefully we get to wisdom at the same token. But it's in that process of really letting that the universe come to us. We're letting ourselves come to ourselves through others. And that's Washer's magical story, in other words.
Yeah.
And same way, sorry, Rachel, that friend that came, it's the similar in the abstract, that when the guy came back again that you knew from school, and he came back and was sharing with you, you got to hear yourself, through him, or at least you got to grow and have a different perspective on yourself through what he said. So in other words, you got to re-look at yourself and see yourself in a magical way.
I just saw progress, I suppose.
There you go.
How I was to where I am now.
Right. Incredible. That's the point. Right. That's the thing. And the same way with Sher. Didn't you also see progress in yourself, Sher? Through listening to your friend's post?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it's
Unbelievable. So exciting. That's the key. When we really hear, we get this perspective on ourselves and we realize, hey, I'm changing, I'm learning, I'm growing. Yay, finally. I get all excited on this. It's a big point to acknowledge and be aware, to be aware. That's the point you want to make, Donna, that all of this hearing needs to translate into actual awareness. Otherwise, it doesn't really mean anything. Yeah?
Sorry, I'm not crying. I think she's chopping onions.
I know it happened to me the other day too. I was like, man, and the same thing. And someone said, "Oh, you're all emotional." No, it was just the bloody onions. But
it's also beautiful. It's so
but it is something to be emotional on. This point of awareness, it is a big point. So when we really hear and see and perceive and feel others, we get to that broader awareness that, hey, you know what? I'm more than just me. I'm everyone else as well. And that's very exciting. That's very exciting. So when we hear, like Donna said, we're all saying the same thing from different perspectives. The sameness through variation. This is a very, very exciting point. Yeah, Donna?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
On that point, I very agree more. I want to start wrapping things up. So just share kind of an overview, takeaway, and then we start to wrap it up. Otherwise, we'll be here all day, and I love being here all day, but it makes the live very long.
For me, my big takeaway, because it connects with, my relationship with Janelle, is it does connect with awareness, because I'm becoming more aware of the feminine aspect of myself, and I'm able to tap into that more through learning how to leverage myself with the tool of hearing and listening, and using the power terms. And by using the power terms, I become something, and then I'm able to listen, and then it's just a whole process.
It's a feedback loop.
The feedback loop, yeah.
It's an infinity feedback loop connecting you to more.
But my big takeaway is my appreciation of my awareness.
Oh.
Okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Awareness, it's the most valuable tool we have.
Yeah.
In my opinion, just because there's a lot of other good ones, but when you're more aware, you're able to appreciate.
Yes.
Than you were before.
All connects. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you're able to see things that you couldn't see before.
Wow.
Like I saw some things in my wife this morning I never seen before, and they were amazing.
Wow. Did you say in my wife or my life?
Janelle.
Oh, okay.
Seen things in Janelle this morning.
Wow. Like
awareness was open.
I know we did the takeaway, but now I have to ask, like, what? Just for appreciation of Janelle, because Janelle's so magical, and we miss her when she's not here. So, like, what? Right?
It made me feel a little bit inferior, and I know there's not stages to all this, but just her character qualities, I guess you could say. Becoming aware of like how intuitive she is and how right she is all the time, and that I need to do a better job of giving her space to allow herself to express these things, because I'm helping her become more when I do that. But just seeing her ability to be so intuitive. Like, for example, we're giving away some of our kittens, and a lady called, and I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. Come and look at the cat. And Janelle's like, no. And I'm like, what? And she's like, she's not right. Wow. And because she said she heard something in her tone, like the way this lady was talking on the phone, she said she didn't understand what it was. She didn't know why. She just knew. She's like, it's not right. Like, something's not right.
Off, yeah.
And see, me, I'm a knucklehead, so I'm like, nah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I take it further, and she ended up being right. Okay. Because the lady ended up not being good, and it was all exposed to me. It was shown to me.
Right.
The universe let me see how it wasn't the right person.
What a magical gift.
And then I'm like, wow, Janelle's like really got a gift. And she did it again in the same day. And I'm like, I really need to start listening to her.
Yeah, there you go. It's humbling it's humbling, Ryan, when we realize that we are actually living with a very real live angel.
Oh man. I was like, how did you do that? I'm like, I didn't hear any of that. I'm like, I just heard the lady wanted a cat.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it is so beautiful. It is so beautiful, Ryan, what you are sharing, because accepting all these things and acknowledging all these things, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. Yeah. And you are such an amazing person. You're doing this.
Capital H humility is magical. Yeah.
And I always didn't see him that way. I appreciate Janelle now like 1,000 times more than when we got married.
Good.
I had no idea what I was doing.
Ryan, just to share what you're saying here, See, look here, the little mini triangle of awareness. See, it's got
Yeah.
attention. You're paying attention to Janelle.
Yes,
And
right.
also through that attention comes appreciation and
Right.
joy, grace, superlatives of being. It's
Right.
conscious and deliberate. You training your brain. Okay, self-quoting comes into this just to conceptualize, but it's also the connecting to the abstract. All of that is exactly what you were expressing right now, just
Yeah.
kind of, encapsulated.
Yeah, and I struggled, and this is big for me because I grew up in a very religious household where the male figure was held up very high as being like the head and really
Right. Paternal hierarchy, in other words.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and the woman's like kind of off to the side.
Why?
Not in a bad way, but maybe a little more lower class or something.
It's dreadful, that crap. Yes.
And so I've had to like break out of those programs. You know what I'm saying?
I apologize on behalf of mankind, men all over, for all that shit. Really.
I mean, and I forgive myself though, and I have to because I didn't know any better.
Exactly.
I had no idea.
We lose out by default sometimes.
Yeah, we lose by default.
Don't know any better. Yeah.
Literally, that's how the courtroom works.
Yeah.
If you don't say something, you lose by default.
Yeah. Donna, you got any takeaway before we go?
My takeaway is my learning of acceptance of who I truly am for the application within me for the grand scheme.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I love that.
I love
that. That's so, gosh. I know it just feels to me like that. So, sure, I'm just going down the list of how it shows on my screen here. Sure, I just feel like that so connects to what you were saying earlier. Sure. You muted. Let me unmute you. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I'm just keen to hear.
I'll leave the buttons alone.
It's all good.
Yes. Gosh. Yes. Okay. My whole takeaway is that I'm taking away that I have heard everything, and I'm in this moment absorbing everything, from the discussion about how guys are to the story, which I can't forget, and everything that everybody has said. And I loved earlier when Donna had said that she was hearing everybody say we're all on the same wavelength and in the same place, but we're all saying it differently. And I so appreciated her saying that, especially since I struggle with, I feel anyways, putting stuff out there. So
Why?
That's it. That's all I.
Wow. And I would just like to add to that. Sure, that's just a perception, not the reality, because there's.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Because I wanted to add this because all of us feel that same way when it comes to our expression. We never get to say the more, but we have to trust that it comes through our intent, through our greatness. Because man, Donna, Bina, Rachel, Mary, all of us, Ryan, all of us, we have this thing where we don't feel like we're fully expressing ourselves all the time, and we don't quite get there. But yet, when we listen to each other, sure, when you listen to Donna or Bina or Rachel or Ryan or any all of us, you hear this, but you hear the profoundness of what they're saying, and it's magical. Now, I'll bet you Donna doesn't share the same perception of how she feels she's saying it and how you hear her. So we just have to know that we never quite feel like we're expressing ourselves fully. But we do.
Right.
What Donna said and what Bina said and what Rachel said and what Mary said, all of it, everybody, Ryan, all of it. It's like, man, it's really magical stuff, right? But internally, each one individually feels like, I feel this all the time. I don't feel like I'm fully expressing myself appropriately. Now weird?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, weird. But you do. We do. And I'll say this on behalf of everybody, that when you express yourself, we understand you. We hear you. It's clear. It's lucid. And it's articulate. That's it. Because you know what you're saying. The words are irrelevant. It's that internalness, the connectivity, the feeling, the mood, that's what counts. And that's all there. The realness. When we're real, we're always articulate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that.
That's why I've always hated like scripted stuff. I'm not a fan of like scripted where you're like memorizing and reciting and doing things like that, because it's not real enough. It's not raw enough.
Let's be real. Let's be real.
I just say what you're going to say right now.
Let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real. Bina, anything?
Yes. My takeaways already I have finished.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. You jumped the queue. Okay, Rachel, I'm just going down the line here as the queue goes.
Not really. I've been pondering a lot of things lately because I've made time for myself and my own philosophy, mind-centered brain to start doing all this questioning and stuff. So I'm kind of like trying to stay on track here, and it's just really difficult for me at the moment.
Excellent. Brilliant. Fantastic. Mary? Anything? It doesn't have to be, again, the takeaways. Just, okay, I had fun, I enjoyed, or I got nothing to say. Either way. Mary, got anything? Any takeaway? Mary, are you still here with us? Maybe Mary's disconnected.
I see a mute button.
Oh, she's muted.
Yeah.
I'm muted.
There you go. You're unmuted now.
I was muted. I find that when I take the time to be patient, I'm not letting the negativity come into me as much, because I'm truly listening to more of what someone else is saying. And that patience, and that's me, because I can be a little bit impatient, and I know that about myself. I've been taking the time to work on that for myself, because I think it's really important to let go of that, to truly hear what somebody else is saying.
Yeah.
And it makes me more aware.
Nice.
That's the ultimate, that's where it's leading me. So
there's a direct connectivity thus between patience and awareness for you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
And also for me, I'm saying what I got from that is like, man, I love patience as a superpower, because I feel patience connects us to overview perspective, which is, of course, overview awareness or universal awareness, which is kind of where we're heading or trying to head towards. Yes. And patience is the tool. It's the path. It's the tool to get us to that greater awareness, that overview. Because when we have patience, we are making space to look at things from that overview perspective, to come into universal awareness.
Right. Yeah. And I think some of that, like, lack of patience for me, when I think about it, really comes from being the last one of so many and not being allowed to have a voice for so long. That's been my struggle. So, it's taken me a long time to get there, but I'm slowly realizing that was, it was sort of stifled in me.
Right. Actually, you know what, Mary? That brings up something that I'm keen to ask you. I'm keen to ask you to something specific, like a favor, to actually do something. I would very much like to see it. You post a lot of memes. I'm actually keen to see you make your own memes and post those.
Okay. Yeah.
Do not share anybody else's, but your own. Because if you look at your comments, you make your comments, they're kind of in meme language already. So now just put them on a picture, and instead of sharing others, to just start making your own memes, and therefore, express all the things that you've had in you all these years, to put them out there in the same way as Cher's been putting it out via her video. I just felt like, hey, you know what? Like, Mary's the meme queen. Hey, let's transform this and make those memes self-expression rather than somebody else's stuff. Make your own memes. I'm very keen to do that. I think it would be just really something special. Yeah? Okay?
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yep. Cool. You got it.
Fantastic. All right. Brilliant, brilliant. On that note, we will just end and say thank you. This was just so fantastically awesome. I don't know. I can't express how much this means to me and how awesome and magical all this is. I don't know. I just feel like I'm like just elevated into the more, you know. I don't know. It's really awesome. Just magical.
Yeah, no, it's a nice connectivity of people.
Yeah.
Just real, all genuine human beings, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Really is. It's good stuff.
We get to be real, in other words. And this is the
Yeah.
magic of this interaction. We get to be real. And no, for me, that's inordinately precious. Because, you know, like you said, Mary, when you were a child, you never got to be real. So when we do get that opportunity to be real, it's really, really magical. And something.
No, you know, it's funny. We were actually expected to be a certain way.
Why?
You know, my dad was, he would even say, if we were all had to go somewhere, or a group of us had to go somewhere, there were certain rules that needed to be followed. Yeah. And if you didn't, then everybody paid the price. We just all left and we all went back home. There was like no debate over how you were supposed to behave when you went somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely zero. So you weren't really allowed to have a voice.
So now, Mary, that intent of being able to debate and go into the details of it and share your voice, this is it. It's manifesting now. Like, you know, Ryan made the point.
Yeah, you know, and actually over time as we grew up, now you can't get all 13 of us to agree with one another. If you put us in a room, that's not going to happen.
Right. But again, you know, in our context here, we're saying to hell with agree and disagree. Let's just throw those two imposters right out the window and we just connect to understanding. And through understanding, hopefully we'll get to find some wisdom somewhere along the line. So, yeah.
Yep.
We're just going to skip the agree, disagree part and say, to hell with agree and disagree. We want nothing to do with you. We want understanding.
That's why I moved.
There you go. Magical.
Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing.
Yes.
No problem, Bina.
Yes. Everyone.
And thank you so much for being you, and thank you so much for being here also.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. Yes, thank you. All right. On that note, thank you to everyone for being real. That's all that we can be. And when we're real, life is easy. It just takes all the pressure off, right? All we can do is be real. There's no more. We just take everything else. It's just so simple, yeah? Yeah. Fantastic. I'm the only, Ryan's the only one I can see. So, like, I was just saying, I can't see anyone else. So, all right. But
it's a male-dominated video.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, bloody hell. I mean, at least Ryan's sort of like nice to look at. So at least there's a bonus there. But, you know, on that note there, I shall end meeting as much as I love to go on all day. But we need to end. Otherwise, the live is too long when you rewatch it. So, all right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye. Brilliant.